Daniels will jump pass. Touchdown, Kansas, Trevor Cardell.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
First play of overtime, and there's one of those studs. Texas Tech has defended Bijan Robinson pretty well. Now, did the ball come out?
Ball came out.
It did, and Texas Tech has it. Amazing.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Ward is going to let it sail deep.
He caught it.
By Ollie.
Sikkim 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
KJ's going to run it again. Diving, fumbles the ball, and Chappelle's got it. Tyreek Chappelle in the right spot as he hands it off to Richardson. Here he goes. Wow! Can you believe this? What a turn! Touchdown in the most unexpected way possible.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
And there it is. USC has the lead. 58 minutes and change, and Jordan Addison is fouled.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go on this Tuesday afternoon, the 27th of September. It's hard to imagine September has almost been evaporated at the end of this week on Saturday, October 1st, which of course will also be some great college football games. We are here, YouTube, 365 Sports and Sikkim 365 Radio. Paul Catalina in the white shirt, Craig Smoak in the gray shirt, and I am in the whatever color this light blue shirt might be.
Actually, this is a lovely light
Is it
purple.
a purple? Okay, it looks white to me. And on the air, it does look a little bit more of that purple type color. We'll have Mack Rhoades today, Baylor's Director of Athletics at 4:20. Tim Fitzgerald on Kansas State, 3:45. John McLean on the NFL. Nice win for the Cowboys last night. Craig's off the radar. Paul's top five. And also a couple of comments about with Nikki Collin yesterday, the Baylor women's basketball coach, when she was asked about Brittany Griner and her thoughts about that situation ongoing in Russia. Now, let's get to a couple of things. Baylor, Iowa State last week, Baylor, Oklahoma State. It's a game where Oklahoma State, of course, has been really good. And Baylor last year in two great games, one in Stillwater where the Cowboys won, the game in Arlington which came down to the McClay, down to inches near the pylon, and Baylor wins the Big 12 championship. This is another one of these teams that will be a part of the Big 12 that are developing a nice little rivalry. Your thoughts about what you've seen from Oklahoma State so far this year? Do you know who they are?
Other than, they haven't really played a tough opponent yet. Arizona State fired their coach, and that was supposed to be their kind of premier non-conference game. But look, I know that they've opened it back up. Spencer Sanders has maybe more handle on the offense than he did a year ago. They don't look like the same team, not the same team as far as good or bad. I think they still look like an excellent team. Their defense isn't as punishing as it was last year, but I don't know if it really has had to be yet. So we'll see. I don't know if they're exactly who they were last year, but neither is Baylor, and we've seen that early, the same thing.
Yeah, we have.
They have played three teams that they should have beat, and they beat them pretty soundly. I know Central Michigan wasn't a bad test out of the gate, and the Chippewas, made a fight there at the end, although it was never really in doubt. It was just that, Central Michigan was able to make it close, there towards the end. With a bit of a rally. But Arizona State, as Paul just said, they're now in the middle of a coaching search 2 weeks later. So how effective was that win really? How much did that tell us? other than just the brand name. Obviously ASU is not in a good spot. Still has a 34-17 game. And then, obviously taking care of Arkansas Pine Bluff, which you'd expect them to do. So very clear that this is their biggest test of the year. I mean, not even close in my mind. And for Baylor, I don't know. BYU was a pretty good test. Iowa State on the road last week was a pretty good test. So I don't know where this one will rank, but I'm sure it'll be right there neck and neck with those two. I do like that Baylor's got a little bit more seasoning probably at this point because of who they played. They've been in some tougher scenarios, but I think the story with Oklahoma State right now is that Spencer Sanders has been sensational. He hasn't turned the ball over. He's been quite electric, and I think that, he's maybe turning into or, just showing that he's going to be that guy that everybody knows he can be when he's at his best, and not so much the up and down roller coaster of, man, he looks really good one week and then he throws 4 picks the next week and costs them a game type of situation. So he's been really good, really clean with the football. And outside of that, I think their running back room's fine. He's their second leading rusher. Their receivers are deep and talented. I think that's a good unit. But then defensively, I do think they're still very solid and good. But it's just a little bit different from the kind of hype and the excitement surrounding that defense last year for the better part of the entire season. So I think they're solid in pretty much every area and pretty good to maybe even we'll see with the quarterback spot and Spencer Sanders in that defense.
Wet blanket with a couple of things in the chat room, and we appreciate all of you watching 365 Sports and listening to us as well. Mike Gundy, 10-8. In his career against Baylor. I thought would have been a little bit better than that, but there have been some dramatic wins. The Denzel Mims catch in the corner of the end zone when Matt Rhule was the head coach was a big one. In fact, Joey McGuire brought that one up yesterday as what that game meant maybe to Baylor, what the game Saturday for Texas Tech might mean going forward for Texas Tech. Dave Aranda, of course, 1-2, lost in Stillwater. No, he's 1-2, lost in Stillwater, lost at home in that team that was 2-7, and then also winning the game in the Big 12 title.
So I pointed this out in one of my articles. I think I pointed out 2 of them now, but if my math is correct on the little dates website that adds and subtracts dates and whatnot, it's exactly 365 days since their first meeting last year on Saturday. So, and they'll have played 3 times in exactly 1 year's time. Obviously, this is a different team from those 2 meetings last year, but I can't help but go back and think of, you had the Big 12 title game, and we know how that turned out, and you had the game prior in the regular season that Oklahoma State wins by 10 and basically pulls away in the fourth quarter, although that game was tight heading into the fourth quarter. And then the game, you had the Big 12 championship game, and then that one, and then the first meeting with Dave Aranda in Oklahoma State. Do y'all remember that? Do y'all remember the end of the 2020 COVID season and the feeling in Waco, Texas, as Oklahoma State just kicked the mess out of a COVID-stricken Baylor roster?
That was a game that they should not have played.
No, they
should not have played that game. The Baylor didn't even have coaches. They didn't have coaches.
Yeah,
they didn't have trainers.
What was that? Juice Johnson was the OC for that game, right?
Yeah, so Bell was out.
They had all these different things going on in that game. So, from that moment to now,
Oklahoma State was going to win that game if they would have had their full battery of people.
It's like Paul said, though, they were so COVID beat up at that point, Baylor was, that probably didn't need to be played when you have your running backs coach serving as your OC and other guys having to do first-time things and just players on the mend. And that was an ugly, ugly way to end that season. But it was almost, kind of a launching point to what we've seen over the last year and all the way into this point now, because Oklahoma State's played an integral kind of a role one way or the other in the weaving in and out of the Dave Aranda tenure so far. That game being the big sad exclamation point on year one, and then 2 great games last year. So we'll see how this one fares.
There is a chance that at any time today on the show, I might just get up and walk off the set. I have a contact that is somewhere in my left eye, and it's the 3rd consecutive day that I've had one lodged somewhere in my left eye. So if, in fact, you see me look like I'm having a problem, that's what it is, because it is driving me crazy. Let's do the A&M stat. Garrett, this is from Max Olson. This is a statistic about A&M. They're averaging 53 plays per game on offense. Last in the FBS among 31 teams. They averaged 65.7 per game last year. Appalachian State, 38 is the big reason why. They had 38 plays. That was a game when Appalachian State dominated time of possession. They have not yet hit 60. since. So this is something that, Paul, you're a Florida State guy. When Jimbo had Jameis, and of course they won the national title, then things started to slide away. They always seemed to be, to me, more of a pro-style offense at FSU.
That's what he runs. That's what he ran at LSU. He's run, but I think the issue is that he has not changed this offense that much since Matt Mock ran it. I think that it's kind of the same thing, slightly updated. I think there's, and teams have maybe caught up to it. Now also, and this may be something that might be hard for people to hear in College Station, maybe the talent assessment that they have made for what they're trying to do is not completely accurate. Because maybe they don't have the guys to run that offense that don't fit that scheme. You know, and Jimbo's offense is very hard to run. You see, he's very hard on quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. You have to be a special type of person to come through the other side of that. And there have been a lot of good ones, but he hasn't had a really good one in a long time. And I think those are the things that are starting to catch up to them. And part of it is, you know, look at modern offenses now. You want to talk about one of the reasons they have less plays? If it's 4th and 1 at the opponent's 47-yard line, he's going to punt unless it's 2 minutes or less in the game. So there are tons of offenses now that go for it on 4th down. Jimbo will not go for it on 4th down unless it's absolutely critical to the game at the end. You know, so he's an old-fashioned coach, and I don't know if it's catching up to him or if they just don't have the guys to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's entirely possible that some of their talent may be overrated. I mean, one of the guys, I don't know what the exact situation was with Baylor Cup when he left A&M, but there he was for Texas Tech doing his thing on Saturday. You know,
he
that
was injured a lot.
Yeah, he was. That's what I mean. That's why I'm not saying like that. You know, he left there. Yeah, he was injured quite a bit, but you see him out there for Texas Tech, and I couldn't help but think like that was supposed to be what he's doing at A&M right now. Now he wasn't like some big 5-star recruit, but that's just somebody that I saw recently that I'm like, yeah, he's supposed to be in College Station playing, but. That was Tech's gain clearly, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's certainly possible because I don't know if anybody's ever done a real deep dive on like I've certainly seen recruiting rankings 5 years later or 10 years later. I don't know if anybody's ever done like a super deep dive, like intricately looking at like how many hits or misses there was for a program over a certain amount of time. But I would be really interested to see A&M's over the last few years because they've definitely hit on a lot of guys and they've definitely had a lot of talented players and a lot of NFL picks and all that. But yeah, I mean something's amiss this year to where the talent level just doesn't seem like it's supposed to be where it should be offensively. And there could be a lot of reasons for that.
Well,
but
what deteriorated in Tallahassee on the field wasn't the defense. Because it's almost same thing, mirror images of each other, is that the defense is fine. They had plenty of talent on defense. They had those guys. The offensive line after the national championship run got, you know, if it was an A in the national championship year, then it was a B+ in the year after, and it was a C+ the year after that, all the way down until he left, it was a D, and then for years it was an F-.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that same thing's happening again.
They're not giving the quarterback. We know Haynes King was not sharp at all or efficient, but he also seemed like he had not much time, and the running game was not very good. An A-chain sometimes makes something out of nothing. A couple of other notes. The Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award winner is Donovan Smith, Texas Tech quarterback, who was fantastic in that game against Texas. He never had the deadly turnover. He converted early on, or I think it was maybe in the third quarter, a 4th and goal. I don't know what, it doesn't matter what it was. It wasn't at the end of the game, but scored on a 4th and goal with a run. He, of course, threw the ball well. He handled the game, handled the big-time moments, and Texas Tech won the game. And for that, he has been named the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award National Player of the Week. There were some other pretty good names in there. A-Chain was in there. In fact, we mentioned him, the Texas A&M running back.
I mean, Texas Tech had no business winning that game. Mm-hmm. They had no business winning that game. You look at it from any angle, they shouldn't have won that game, really. And they did in large part to Donovan Smith playing a much cleaner game than he has over the last couple of weeks when he's been basically a turnover party. And he wasn't this week, and that made a world of difference for them in a game that went to overtime. So, yeah, I mean, they're feeling good. They deserve to. I'm very curious to see Tech now have to head onto the road. They've only done that once, and that was their only loss to NC State. Now, granted, NC State's a good team, but now you're back on the road after the big home win, and you just wonder, like, emotionally, how do you recharge? All those types of kind of questions arise. But this team seems to be playing with a lot of confidence. Got a lot of belief going on right now in that program. I don't know like how talented they are, eye to eye with most teams. I don't know schematically how much they're really fooling people. I just think that they believe in what they're doing, and they're playing really hard for Joey McGuire and that staff. And they do have some talent as well, like guys like Miles Price and Donovan Smith. So they're an intriguing team that, you kind of wondered year one, what were the expectations? And I was saying, at least a bowl game based off of just where they were last year. And I think that's without a doubt, going to be in the cards for them unless just stuff goes real sideways. But this game this weekend, going to Manhattan, should be a lot of fun to see as well how K-State comes off of that Oklahoma win and, kind of where they are. But good for Donovan Smith. He deserved that after, a couple of rough weeks.
I want to clarify. Wet Blanket was saying he thought Adrian Martinez was the Offensive Player of the Week. The Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award, just to give you clarification, either you had to have played high school football in Texas, and you could play for Oregon, or you have to be playing for a team or a college in Texas, no matter where you came from. Whether, for example, Bijan Robinson's not from Texas but plays for UT, and that's why Adrian Martinez was not eligible for this particular award.
The Bijan Robinson is the Randy White got here as quick as he could kind of a Texan.
Blake Shapen's from Louisiana, but he would be eligible because he plays for a Texas school. Otherwise, he would not be, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, Utah's tight end. This guy's really good. Brant Kuithe out for the rest of the year, and of course, Utah plays that nice, tough, physical style. Got blown out by Florida early in the year, but this is a tough loss for them because of how they play. They use the tight ends very well. I looked at a highlight reel of him on YouTube. I wanted to make sure I said his name correctly, and the highlights were there. And, of course, he's had 148 catches, nearly 1,900 yards, and 16 touchdowns in his career. But he is out for the year after the injury to his knee.
And first team coming in to play Utah this week, Oregon State are really and USC knows a tough team in Oregon State.
So long as, Nolan's not throwing 4 interceptions, they're a tough team because, you lose a close game like you did the other night. Not that many people saw that, of course, but 4 picks is not going to get it done, and that definitely didn't help their efforts against the Trojans. Otherwise, we might be talking about just a crazy celebration in Corvallis. But Brant Kuithe, speaking of the Earl Campbell Award, is a Texas guy. So even though he plays for Utah, he played his high school ball here. And he is a great player, and that's a huge loss for Utah.
Now, another B. Lee. B. Lee is saying that, listen to this, and Paul, you kind of mentioned this about the Richardson, the quarterback at Florida. And I love opinions. We all do. No matter, it's your opinion, you feel it. But Hooker may be the next Vince Young. As long as Hooker plays lights out and takes the Vols to a 13-0 SEC championship.
Oh, is that all it takes?
Yeah. There's still like 8 or 9 games left, and then even more than that. Here's the thing. Vince Young is perhaps one of the greatest, if not the greatest quarterback that's ever played the game. And that's debatable because you have guys who are more drop back, and then you have those who won a lot of championships. I know Tebow didn't put up great stats, but he still was considered. I think it's Tommy Frazier. Completely different offense, and he won championships. You were mentioning Richardson from Florida just because of his body style, big, he could throw it.
After the first week.
Vince Young was he's in that conversation, and I don't know if there's a handful of others that would be.
Vince Young is for the greatest college quarterback of all time and certainly one of the most dominant players I've ever seen play college football. And his last 2 years, especially the last year, where Texas just decided, we're going to stop trying to make him into something that he's not, and we're just going to let him be Vince Young. I thought that's what Billy Napier, and it's maybe what he's trying to do with Anthony Richardson right now, but there's just another level to, and no offense to Hendon Hooker, I think he's super fun to watch, but Vince Young just trashed people out of his way. I mean, he destroyed other people. It's such a different thing, physically dominant of what he did. There was, and some of you may remember this, some of you may not, Texas A&M and a quarterback named Reggie McNeil who came out at the same time from Lufkin High School, and both of them were very highly thought of. And Vince Young definitely put his stamp on it. He had more talent around him, but there was no doubt that after the two went on their 4 years in college, Vince Young was the far better player coming out of high school.
Yeah, I was the one that covered Reggie. Craig saw him as well. He was phenomenal, but Vince Young coming out of Houston-Madison was elite, and then they finally just let him be him. They finally let him be him about his sophomore year at Texas, and we saw what he did the rest of the way.
I think Hendon Hooker can, like you saw against Florida, help put a team on his back, so to speak, in some ways. I think Anthony Richardson can do that too, and I think Vince Young certainly did that. I think there's similarities there. I think some of the athleticism, certainly with Richardson, was what got people talking about that in week one. But you saw how quickly that fizzled out. I mean, that fizzled out almost immediately afterwards. But it was fun during week one to talk about him that way. But yeah, I think Hooker's a really good player. I think Tennessee's a really good team. But man, with the road ahead of them, to think about getting into the same spot that Vince Young is let's get there first before we start talking about that kind of thing. There's a long way to go, and Vince had to win that Rose Bowl versus Michigan to set up that run the following year, and Hooker hasn't quite done any of that just yet. But yeah, definitely a player to keep on talking about and watching and having fun and enjoying watching play, but not quite there yet in my mind.
The 3:45, Tim Fitzgerald covers Kansas State, will join us. Also, Mack Rhoades at 4:20. J.J. Doe, Baylor Radio, former Baylor quarterback, today just after 5 o'clock. There are some games, Ian. Hurricane Ian is forcing games to at least be looked at moving. One of them is Eastern Washington against Florida. That game has been moved back a day to Sunday. That hurricane is a large dude, man. I'm telling you, and he's just piping right through what looks like the west side and up the middle of Florida at some point when it does landfall, and then what it does the rest of the way. We've got brothers, 3 of them that live in Florida, 1 on the East Coast, 2 on the East Coast, 1 on the East Coast, 2 in the West, doesn't matter. But again, thinking about them and everybody that's a part of it. Steve, who lives in Ohio, has a house in Florida. And he sent me a text today hoping that his house is going to be okay. So hopefully that won't do too much damage. We hope. But it's kind of part of that time of the year. So that's that on Hurricane Ian. Now, this is a text on Sean McDonough. So I know that some of you were watching Texas. It was at the Texas Tech game when they cut away with the mini screen and Aaron Judge was up as they were trying to monitor him, trying to tie Roger Maris's record for the most home runs in a single season for the American League. We know that Bonds holds the all-time record, and others have just blown right by 61. Sean McDonough, this is from Rudy Martzke. He's a great media writer. It's
fake Rudy Martzke.
Yeah, this is what he goes. You could tell he was irritated during the West. It was Wake Forest Clemson. The live cut in for Judge's home run chase, telling viewers in the game that people were tuning in to watch, Wake Forest has taken the lead, and just a little sarcasm during that particular time.
He's right. I don't know I know this is what you used to do on ESPN when there was only one ESPN, but if people want to watch Aaron Judge, they can find it. Like, if you really want to see it, you can find it. You don't need to, and it wasn't a historic moment had it happened for anybody but the Yankees.
That's where my issue lies, is the fact that this is exclusive to one brand and one type of player, and this would not be happening if this was the Texas Rangers.
There was, and I said that, I think I may have alluded to that yesterday. What if it would have been Seattle or whatever? And somebody said, I remember a guy that played for the Cardinals that had people cutting in. It was the McGuire chase with Sosa all the way up to breaking the record. I remember those times. I remember just watching those games live on WGN or wherever they were. And so I don't recall that. And if it happened, okay, then it happened. That was chasing the record for the all-time single-season home run mark, not so much breaking, which was Roger Maris. And then it was like every time they came to bat, they were popping in and out.
I was going to say, you didn't remember that? Because that was impossible to avoid back in the 90s.
I got caught up in that like everybody else.
But like you said, the reasoning there is quite simple. It was the all-time home run record. It was Roger Maris's 61. It wasn't the Yankee club record that's no longer even the baseball record. That's just that's the AL record. That's great. Happens to be held by a Yankee great. That's fine. Put that on Yes Network. We don't, people watching college football on Saturday, especially when it's not even Rutgers for that matter, don't probably care too much about the AL record. I don't think it's a big deal. Like, there were people that were whining about this, like it was ruining their entire afternoon that there were cut-ins. I didn't get that bothered by it, but I do feel like if that was any other uniform pretty much, then we're not talking about it as much, and we're certainly not cutting into live action, and that's where I can see people having an issue with it.
Yeah, part of that, I think, I remember I met an ESPN radio guy way up the ladder when I first started he was at Colin Cowherd's show at the State Fair for Texas OU. And I asked him why, because right during the hockey strike, it's like, how do you guys fill that time? And he said, look, if it was up to me, we'd just, bump hockey to, some other network and move it down because it doesn't get ratings. He said, but the people who own this company, who started this company, love hockey. That's what they do. They're from Connecticut. They're from that area. So part of that, I think also that bias comes through is because most of the people that work there are Yankee fans and like, oh, we got to cut in. And then they don't take 30 seconds and go, okay, if you are watching Wake Forest and Clemson and you are from North Carolina and South Carolina and everywhere in the ACC region, do you care?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting that they did that, and I think, Craig, you're right, and I thought about that, and whether it was or not, but the Yankees brand was something that, to me, comes into play. It is the American League record held by another Yankee. He's tied with another Yankee in Babe Ruth, but the whole-time record is 73, and he's kind of gone into a little, not a funk. Where he is crazy to try to tie the record of Roger Maris and go past it for the American League the overall American League record for home runs in a single season. I was asked by Paxton, bangers this week in college football. The ones I get this thing called the Blitz. When we come back, what I call bangers, as far as these are the elite games in college football, I don't know if there's one that's like, you have to watch it. There may be 4 or 5, though, that I have. That doesn't mean you agree, and maybe I missed one, or maybe one you don't agree with. The bangers, next on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Earlier today, I went to see Dr. Steve Childress, who a long time ago tried to convince me that I needed to start doing much, much more for my dental work. And 2 or 3 things. I knew I had not taken care of it very well. I was probably scared about what the answers or results would be. And, man, I don't know about you, but getting a needle stuck in the roof of your mouth is about as hard and harsh as anything I think you can ever deal with. But I finally made the decision. I finally put in the commitment. I had 2 teeth pulled. I had implants put in my top right-hand corner of my mouth. And today, I had 2 implants and 2 crowns put in. It's done. And now can I keep it? Can I take care of everything else? Doesn't mean I'm done, but Dr. Steve Childress, this guy's amazing. He has served for our country. He has been there when people have had many things happen to them while serving for our country when they're dental work, and he's just a great dentist. He's a great friend of mine as well. He's a great dentist, and his office is amazing. I got text messages and email for the last 3 or 4 days. Hey, don't forget. Hey, don't forget. Hey, don't forget. I got in there. It did not take long. This has been a long process, and one that I'm thrilled is over. And now I've got to maybe look at the next level of what I do. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas.
If you're out looking for a great selection of new cars and trucks, then shop Allen Samuels in Waco. Because we have some of the best deals in Central Texas that will put you in a new vehicle and driving away with confidence. Save big this month on a new 2022 Dodge Charger GT and get $500 bonus cash with 2.9% for 72 months. Plus, first responders get an extra $500 off your purchase. Stop by today or browse online at allensamuelsdcj.com.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world?
by not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference, and that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's football and tailgate season. If you want product for the grill or smoker, charcoal, seasonings, marinades, sauces, Waco Custom Marketplace is your home to help prep, cook, and enjoy your food. Tailgate must like brisket, tri-tip, fresh-made burgers, sausage, chicken wings, and if you want steaks, call in your order and pick them up. Bacon wrap fillets or any kind of ribeyes. USDA Select Choice and Prime that melt in your mouth. House-made sausage and jerky. Also, Waco Custom Marketplace, a one-stop shop for tailgating, barbecue cook-offs, and family get-togethers, fundraisers with fair prices to you, the customer. A bakery with fresh baked bread and kolaches. There's cold beer, wine, and soft drinks. Serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. A cut above the rest. Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Paxton on the chat room, and I say bangers. This is just, Paul knows the term that when we started going to Super Bowls on Radio Row, and we would go find guests, and Paul could do it. We had a guy named Jeff Wood that helped us out, and Craig would do it, or Q would do it, whoever else. We had bangers, names that were going to make a difference. And we had some great guests, but we had bangers. Those were the ones that were big boys, big names. And no matter personalities, entertainers, or even football players and athletes. Here are the games for this week, and tell me if I've missed one here. North Carolina State at Clemson. Oklahoma State at Baylor. Kentucky at Ole Miss, 2 top 10 teams. Texas Tech, because of this past weekend at Kansas State's a banger. Washington at UCLA.
There's 2 ranked ACC teams supposedly playing at Tallahassee this week.
Yeah. That's one that immediately comes to mind.
I'm just telling you. It's all, Arkansas, Bama. Yeah, there you go.
Michigan, Iowa's big noon kickoff.
Yeah, and I
which
saw that
I don't know
game.
if that's
that
a banger game. No,
yeah.
I don't think so because I just don't see any feasible way that Iowa's going to score enough points. So I don't know how interesting that's going to be really. But I mean, I guess TV ratings wise, it would be considered that, I'm sure.
Here's how Iowa's going to stay in the game. In the third quarter, Michigan is going to play basketball.
Yeah, I mean, whatever it takes, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how interesting that one's going to be. I just throw that in there because that's the big noon game, which doesn't necessarily qualify as a banger. But
yeah, and you wonder.
I think Oregon State Utah is really interesting.
Okay,
I think that's an interesting game in the Pac-12. So I would have an asterisk get worse next to that one because I think that's an important game for the conference and for both of those teams. And Utah's right there hovering in the top 10. But yeah, what was the other one that was questionable?
Okay, here's the ones we have. You guys have added a couple of 3. Paul pushed me into the Florida State Wake Forest game.
No, that's the one I was going to say. That has to, even though they're both like right there on the fringe of the top 25, like whoever loses is out.
Yeah,
no doubt, and whoever wins is probably like 21st.
Wake
but
Forest
it's
took
an important
Clemson
game.
to the wire. I mean, in overtime.
And hey, I was wrong. Like I said last week, we were doing our picks that was a game that I wasn't super excited about. I just didn't expect it to be as dramatic and as close as it was. I mean, obviously Sam Hartman was the kind of wrinkle in that game of having him back and healthy and all of that, and just to feel good of that. But I didn't expect it to turn into the, instant classic type of a ball game that it turned in. Not a legendary game, but you know what I'm saying. It turned into a very watchable game when I wasn't expecting it to necessarily be that. And so kudos to those two teams. And yeah, I do think that sets up well moving forward.
So NC State, Clemson, Oklahoma State in Waco against Baylor, Kentucky at Ole Miss, 2 unbeaten top 10 teams. Texas Tech at K-State after both had huge wins this past weekend. Washington at UCLA. And I thought about that. Washington, of course, has been one of the nice surprises this year. Wake Forest, Florida State. Florida State's been a surprise. In fact, do you have the tweet, the Florida State image? Not sure if you saw this, Paul. You don't have it, Garrett? Okay, find it if you can and let me know. Oregon State, Utah, and then Arkansas bouncing, they hope, to maybe bounce back. Now they have Alabama right in front of them.
This is not a banger game by any means, but I think every game in the Big 12 is pretty interesting this weekend because I think the conference is pretty interesting. Like West Virginia, Texas, I mean, something's got to give there. Either West Virginia's about to take their third loss and be back under 500 after feeling kind of good about the win over Va-Tech, or Texas is going to be in a world of hurt. Now, granted, their world of hurt gets erased as soon as Quinn Ewers comes back. So when's that going to be? Because Oklahoma's right around the corner. And I know quarterback's not their problem per se, but I do think that the thought around him is like he makes such a difference for them that they can kind of erase what they've done already, even if it's too late to, go run at the national title or anything. So
Hudson Card is treading water.
Yeah.
Let me ask you
respectably,
this.
yeah.
If Ewers doesn't play for another 2 or 3 weeks, and you kind of expect him to probably come back, but let's say he doesn't, they can't change what they're doing. The last thing Texas needs is another change.
No, and I would think that.
And I'm not saying that. I don't know how many they're going to lose.
They'll run Wildcat, and they'll have Card as much as he's healthy. And
but if I think the powers that be that are in charge can say, hey, these are the circumstances we've been dealt. This is how we have to handle it. This isn't having your full roster available to you and losing to a Kansas team that can barely breathe air while walking a few years ago with Charlie Strong. This is a different thing altogether. So I think they're fine going forward. I think that you can see.
Okay, what if Xavier Worthy's out for a week or two?
Well, that's going to hurt them, but like the point is that they kind of have a mulligan because of Quinn Ewers.
That was my point.
But having said that, like if they lose the game this weekend, like how much of a mulligan do you give them? Because they could be staring at like 4 straight losses, depending on his availability and Worthy's day to day though. I think he'll be fine, but if Ewers doesn't come back and they don't play at a particularly high level, then they're in danger of this going sideways pretty quickly.
And it goes back to the conference. Like Craig, you said it was very interesting. Well, where is your game where everything's going to be okay if you have to sleepwalk through a half? In this, it's not there.
They didn't have it anyways because of the fact that the team that everybody counted as that was the team that beat them a couple times. So they didn't even have the Kansas, card.
There's like Kansas now you can't sleep on at all, and you have to really know that you're going in for a dogfight when you get there. So there's a lot. Iowa State and Kansas are the game I'm really interested in this weekend.
That's what I'm saying,
because it is very contrasting styles. Kansas is, we all have to kind of admit that Kansas is really good, but have they played someone like Iowa State yet that will not make mistakes, that will not do dumb things?
And I think they're really good offensively. I think there's questions as a whole as a team of just how good they are, and I think Iowa State will be a great measuring stick for that. So, I think the Big 12 has some intriguing matchups because there's a lot of teams that are going to have to kind of turn left or turn right based off of this weekend, or at least we'll see them kind of turn a certain direction. But it's a crowded race, and I think, looking at the rest of the national schedule, I think you pretty much hit on the main ones as far as, bangers would be concerned. But because I'm looking around and I don't see any more that I'd necessarily chalk up as being that type of a game.
Kansas State and Texas Tech up in Manhattan after both had huge wins this past weekend. Coming up next, we'll hear from our good friend Fitzgerald, covers Kansas State for PowerCat.com. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Looking for a great job with great pay and awesome benefits? Genco FCU is hiring. As a longtime Waco employer, Genco focuses on what matters most in our employees' lives, like pay incentives, bonuses, benefits, 401k plans, paid time off, advancement opportunities, medical, prescription, dental, and vision insurance, as well as short and long-term disability. Come join our incredible team today and make Genco your career that will work for you. Apply at gencofcu.org or at any branch location.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
We're fighting hard at Pickup Outfitters in our battle to end truck nudity. But it's not just about putting an outfit on a naked truck, it's about making sure you have the very best customer service. So we offer the Pickup Outfitters Lifetime Installation Guarantee. Over time, sometimes your outfit needs a little tune-up, maybe some tightening, adjusting, whatever. If you outfitted your truck at Pickup Outfitters, that tune-up is absolutely no charge for the remainder of the time you own that truck. We also offer free warranty assistance. If for any reason you need to use your warranty, you just bring it back to us and we take care of it. It just makes sense. I mean, operating without a promise like that would be like offering customer service in the nude. And if you've seen our staff, trust me, you don't want that. So do your part to end truck nudity by outfitting your truck, Jeep, SUV, or van at Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco, where we promise to serve you fully clothed. Check out our website, createacommotion.com.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Hey, we've got a visitor and is here as a part of our home. This is U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, of course, one of the title sponsors of what we do every day on 365 Sports and YouTube and Sikkim 365 Radio. Captain Kizzy, First Sergeant Jeter, and also Lieutenant Felty just came in. And this is a autograph signed black matte U.S. Army football helmet. This is going up in the background, no question about it. We appreciate you guys so much and love the partnership we have with the U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company. GoArmy.com, by the way, is where you need to go for that.
Levi and Emery aren't here, but if they want to take them with them, they can.
Yes, they can.
Yes, you're free to have those
They're young guys. They can.
They're ready for that. They're ready. And God bless all of you guys, everybody that serves our country, around the country, around the world as well, to allow us to just do this, what we do every single day. We're now joined by Tim Fitzgerald, PowerCat.com, great friend of the show, covers K-State. Tim, thanks for your time. My goodness, Saturday night in Norman was very special for that team. Can you imagine the Adrian Martinez, if that you get a little bit of that the rest of the way?
Yeah, K-State's going to be a problem if that's the way Adrian's going to play. Anywhere close to that, I'm not sure he can replicate that on a night-in, night-out basis, but he was really special. Chris Kleiman kept talking about he needs to flip the switch, and, it was a nice little phrase, but there must have actually been a switch. I can't fathom how a guy could play so poorly against Tulane in a loss and just not look engaged in the game and then turn around and do that to the Oklahoma Sooners. It was really impressive. Redefining victory for Kansas State. But as you guys know, you mess around in this league and you take your eyes off of the task at hand, you're going to lose at home to Texas Tech, and that's the next task for Kansas State.
Tim, for Adrian Martinez individually, what kind of catharsis was that to win a one-score game among the many other things he did the other night?
Yeah, I mean, we should point that out, that he didn't turn the ball over again. He was being so cautious about having errors in those first three games that he forgot to play football. And he played his butt off and still had no turnovers and won a close game on national TV, basically did everything many Nebraska fans have told me that he could never do because he's a choker. And I think he won't admit it, but there was a lot of satisfaction in that. But he also mentioned in postgame that he felt like he let his teammates down, that he left a lot on the field. He just he didn't play the kind of game he needed to play against Tulane, and they ended up losing. And he didn't leave anything out. He emptied the tank against Oklahoma. He just brought it all, including up to that last, 55-yard run that set up his touchdown that sealed the victory, essentially.
Tim, what is it about this matchup? I mean, it'd be one thing if they had knocked off Oklahoma a couple times, but, I mean, the fact that Kansas State is trying to get back to the mountaintop, and during this process over the last few years, they've been able to just consistently beat the Sooners. What do you think it is about this matchup between these two that results in K-State having so much success?
Brother, I have no idea. It's 4 out of 6 they've won in Norman in a row. And what's really interesting about it is they also beat them with Colin Klein at quarterback, and he called the same play he sealed the victory with for Adrian Martinez on the last touchdown, the quarterback power. And so that's how long it's been going, that player became coach, became offensive coordinator to call the same number that he had called for him back in the day. I can't explain why Kansas State has given Oklahoma so many problems through the years. It started, before Bob Stoops arrived, and they went and hired a former K-State defensive coordinator to take over. They've now hired a former K-State defensive coach and player to take over. It's just an interesting relationship between these two schools.
So, the way climate is, they're not going to get too high. They're not going to get too low. I know they had the disappointing weekend against Tulane, but they bounced back with what they did in Norman. What has been the message this week with Texas Tech? I'm sure that didn't hurt that they beat Texas to get any attention. In fact, if there was not enough of one.
Yeah, you're right. We got two teams coming off huge wins playing on ESPN Plus, as you guys pointed out on your Twitter account. It's kind of a weird situation, but yeah, that does get your attention. They did an incredible job coming back, getting off the mat against Texas. Texas had an opportunity to put them away in the third quarter and really squandered it and ended up losing. But yeah, he talked about you essentially play 12 one-game seasons, and every game is a season. You got to go out there and take care of business in the week that you're playing. And if that message can resonate through this program now down the stretch, they're going to be tough to beat. They've got Tech this weekend, then they go to Iowa State, which I think is going to have their hands full with Kansas this weekend, which is still awkward to say, but I do believe that's going to be a tough game for the Cyclones. And then they got an off week to regroup. So if they can get to 5-1 at the turn, so to speak, I think this team, this program's in a really good situation, even though they've got a stretch with your Baylor Bears and Oklahoma State and Texas on down the line in the second half of the season. But they will roll into that off week to get healthy, and I think feel pretty good about themselves as they can be 5-1.
Tim, after what happened with both these teams last week, Tech and Kansas State, how much is the enthusiasm and the vibe around this game jumped up? Because if you asked most of the world, this would be two teams that were coming off losses coming into here, and now they're both coming off big upset wins.
Yeah, it is interesting. And, I think the fans are very fired up. I just saw a tweet where they're down to 750 tickets for Saturday's game. They're less than 600 for Oklahoma State. They've still got plenty of tickets available for Texas because, it's Texas. Who wants to see them? And then here's the great one. The KU game to end the season is basically sold out. There's fewer than 100 tickets left. So it's really amazing how fired up people are and engaged. And I got to be honest, you guys will appreciate this. I've been covering Kansas State sports since I was in college in the 80s, and I've never seen this fan base as engaged as it is with football and basketball at the same time, because Jerome Tang might have a statue built for him in this town before he ever coaches a game, because people love this dude so much. And, these two head coaches have this fan base really riled up.
Tim, I was just curious, all of us who follow and cover the Big 12, I think we're all trying to make sense of kind of how the league stacks up, and it might just be where everybody's pretty similar overall, but how did your opinion change, or was anything confirmed seeing Oklahoma on Saturday night, even in that loss?
Well, they're human. I mean, they had flaws in K-State exposed them, and that's still a really good team. It still might be the best team in the conference. We'll see how it plays out, but I think K-State put some things on film for everyone to follow. But I think this compacted the league even more. The top may not be as far away as what we thought. I mean, Baylor has a loss. I picked Baylor to win. I think Oklahoma State's pretty good, but I think this is the most compressed, if you want to say it that way, this league has ever been, because Kansas and Tech were picked to finish 9 and 10 in this conference, and they're both 1-0 in this conference. And Kansas looks like a problem for everyone, and Tech is going to be pesky. So it's a mess. We all know it's a mess in a positive way, because this conference is so competitive and so entertaining and such good brand of football. But I'm just waiting for the spin to come as Oklahoma and Texas maybe slide down the standings of the conference, that the national media will say, well, the Big 12 just isn't very good because their leaders isn't Oklahoma or Texas, and they've got 2 losses. So I can see it coming right now, but I'm telling you, this is going to be the future of the Big 12. You get your snot kicked out of you every week if you're not ready to play.
In fact, there was a little bit of that.
There was, yep.
There was a little bit of that late Sunday, even during the Kansas State and Oklahoma game, where you heard about the Big 12 is wide open. That is true. Oklahoma ran it, as we know, for the longest of time. Oklahoma State had their run. TCU had their run. Baylor had their run. And then, of course, last year, Oklahoma State almost again. But you already hear that. Isn't that amazing? Mm-hmm. It's just
after Texas lost is what you're saying, is that's when it started chirping. I saw it right away. Texas lost and Oklahoma's in danger, so must be a down year in the Big 12. But we're kind of all used to that kind of thinking, aren't we?
Yeah, it's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. I mean, they were praising Texas for a loss earlier in the season, and all of a sudden it's like that never happened. That must have been a fluke. Because the conference sucks. It gets exhausting, and I honestly won't miss any of that once these teams are gone. But I also know this: I don't think Oklahoma's going to miss Kansas State one bit.
No,
True.
I don't think so. In Kansas State, remember, they gave Texas fits for a while. They kind of had Mack Brown's number for a little bit too.
They did. And what's interesting, kind of an untold story, is K-State was trying to get Vince Young. There was a lot of talk that he might be a secret commit. There was old recruiting stories. It's fantastic. Mack Brown essentially ran Bill Snyder's offense with Vince Young to win a national title. And, that quarterback run game was so prominent. And then after he was gone, K-State climbed back on top of Texas and just started whacking them, even when they were pretty good. They kept beating them. Texas is strung on. Tom Herman had no problem with K-State. And Sark got a win last year over K-State. So that's something K-State and Chris Kleiman are going to need to correct.
Tim, looking at K-State now after you got like this first month of the season as evidence, I think we're starting to kind of figure some teams out in a way. What have you figured out? I mean, obviously you saw the good now with Adrian Martinez that everybody was kind of waiting on, and Deuce Vaughn's fantastic, but what else do you feel like you've kind of figured out, or are you still wondering about in terms of this football team?
Well, oddly, K-State's defense gave up 500 and plus yards against Oklahoma, and I thought they were pretty good overall, just based on how good Oklahoma's offense can be and that sped-up offense. They're going to have to be better, going to have to give up fewer points, but they got key stops through that game that enabled K-State to win. This is a really balanced team. Again, special teams played a role for Kansas State. Special teams were completely negated by Tulane, which was, Willie Fritz is a great coach and just took special teams out of the game. K-State, Oklahoma tied it up at 14-14, and next thing they know, Malik Knowles is crossing the 50 on the kickoff return and flips the field and flips the momentum right back. So this team has a little bit of everything, but they also have some flaws. They don't have great depth sometimes, and sometimes they don't have enough weapons. But if they can stay and hit the right notes, they're going to beat a lot of people.
Tim, always great to talk to you, man. We appreciate you and your story. How you feeling, man?
Feeling great. It is Prostate Cancer Awareness Month, so everyone go get your PSA check.
Absolutely. Every family has been hit with that at some point. Tim, thanks for you and what you bring to the table with us covering Kansas State. Tim Fitzgerald, GoPowerCat.com, and involved in a lot more as well.
I thought it was funny what he said about Jerome Tang.
Gonna get a statue
before, but it's true. We know him well. You and I have both known him for a long time, Smokey, and he is. If he's one of those guys that if you don't like him, it's definitely a you problem. Mm-hmm. Like if you walked in and just told someone like, "Man, that guy rubs me the wrong way," and be like, "Listen, buddy, you might need to get some help."
Yeah, you need to go enjoy life a little bit. Yeah, you're way too uptight if you don't get along with Jerome Tang.
You also like hate puppies and springtime and chocolate chips,
parades.
Well, no, parades are big time waste of money, but yeah.
All right, Mack Rhoades, Baylor's Director of Athletics, will join us at 4:20. Also, J.J. Joe, former Baylor quarterback, part of Baylor Radio, will join us today just after 5 in the game with Oklahoma State and what he saw from Baylor's offense when they won the game up in Ames against Iowa State. Again, thanks to Captain Kizzy, thanks to First Sergeant Jeter and First Lieutenant Felty for dropping by with this big baby. The chat room's going, man, that's hot, and it is. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company and GoArmy.com. This is 365 Sports.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season. And BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgan Ford.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the City of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Well, play action. They got him, and it's Ben Sims right there, and he's into the end zone. Touchdown, Baylor.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Sir, blah, blah, blah on the extended Big 12 schedule this weekend. Utah State, Brigham Young, Tulane, and Houston. Boy, Dana needs a win.
Man,
that's
Houston's
a Friday night game. That Brigham Young, Utah State's Thursday night.
Houston's such a disappointment, man. Like, that's such a disappointing team. I think, to have Clayton Tune be as much of a veteran as he is at this point, and I know you had the McCaskill injury, and that was a killer because I think he's a great player, and the sooner they can get him back next year, that'll definitely help matters. But that was a bummer. But still, you got Clayton Tune back. You got some receivers that I thought were at this point going to be better than they are. I think the most concerning thing is not even necessarily the team itself. It's just that you see the clips and it's fighting on the sidelines, and it just seems like the culture kind of sucks. The culture just doesn't seem to be in the place that it needs to be, and seems almost, as of the last couple of weeks, kind of toxic. Which that's not what you're aiming for, obviously, and that's something that Dana needs to get on if he hasn't already, and correct quickly, because that's certainly not helping them get out of this hole that they dug for themselves. And they were. Was that Rice they were in danger of falling to, which would have been just an embarrassing loss that they were thankfully able to avoid. But, man, if they would have lost that game, that would have been really interesting to hear some Fertitta comments on the state of the program. But, it's bad.
SMU and UCF and Cincinnati Tulsa. Those are the other ones.
Yeah, but they've got a Tulane team that just beat Kansas State on Friday. That's coming up, so you can't hope to get right against Tulane.
Let me tell you something. That dude at Tulane, Willie Fritz, can freaking coach, man.
Yeah. You have a road game at Navy, which nobody can ever really prepare for.
That's not the same Navy, though. That's not the same Navy, yeah.
But the thing is, what those schools have proven, if you are down in the dumps and aren't ready to go, that's going to be your tough loss.
You'll look like you're just bouncing into a wall.
Look, South Florida at home, that should be a win because they're about to be, I think, in the water for a coach here soon. But, SMU, Tulsa on that list. Tulsa, is okay.
All right, so
somebody
Houston,
in the chat room just asked why we have an Oklahoma helmet in the background. We probably put a Kansas State helmet on since they won that game. Go ahead.
They were yesterday.
What?
Kansas State.
Oh, okay, good. All right.
So Tulane, Houston, I think Houston's a slight favorite, but that could easily be a Tulane win in my mind. Who are the other ones you mentioned? BYU and Utah State. That should be a BYU win without question. That would be
SMU and UCF.
I don't think UCF's particularly that good. I don't get the real, I don't know, electric vibes that I was hoping for with Gus Malzahn and John Rice Plumlee, and just I don't know. I was kind of expecting more from them this year. They're kind of just sort of there. So yeah, I don't know about that one.
Well, they lost to Louisville in a game that was low scoring, 20-14. They beat Georgia Tech. Of course, everyone is beating up on them.
They just fired their coach.
South Carolina State, they're supposed to, and then Florida Atlantic.
So this will be a really telling game for SMU. You see SMU. We've already seen a bit of what they're up to, and obviously TCU last week. But yeah, UCF's just kind of there, and I'm not sure how good they really are. So that'll be an interesting contest to see how they match up with the Mustangs. And then what was the other one?
It was
We already talked BYU. We talked Cincinnati.
And Tulsa.
And they should win that
Tulsa's
game.
2-2, Cincinnati.
Yeah, Tulsa's Davis Brin's a good quarterback. But that should be a Cincy win all day.
Tulsa's okay.
They're fine.
They're okay, but they're not. I don't think they might upset some people, but I don't think it's going to be
not
anything.
Cincinnati. Yeah, even if that is on the road.
Yeah.
All right, from JG Neolardo, Dana Holgerson. And we saw this yesterday as well. Not taking responsibility for stupid stuff is not the best to announce to the public. It sounds very insecure.
Yeah, I think the thing that really got away from him, too, is I haven't had a chance to go back and really dive in and really hear for myself what he said. But the way whatever he said comes across so poorly in text. When he's talking about, I'm tired of this blank and, having to tell a guy, that whole spiel. I was hoping that maybe with some context and going back and listening, he would make, be a little cleaner. And I don't know, maybe I need to do that because it certainly doesn't read very well. It reads like it's, a bad situation. And that's the vibes that we're talking about.
From Beer Smoker 4444, UCF needs a quarterback. That was his thoughts about that.
And they thought they have one with John Rice Plumlee, but who transferred in from Ole Miss. He's certainly very athletic. He's very fast, but they're 3-1.
Yeah, they're not horrible by any means, but I just expected them to be a little bit better. I expected them to be more of a quote unquote contender, not for a playoff spot or anything, but just in the mix of the talking. And they really haven't been. They've been kind of an afterthought almost, but that could just be because of people waiting to sort of figure out who they are, and also just because what they've done to this point isn't necessarily going to trump what a lot of other people have done and a lot of the other, much bigger games and talking points. So we'll see how they do. Like I said, not bad by any means. I was just expecting maybe a little bit more chatter at this point. That's fine. That's my own false expectations.
We'll have Mack Rhoades in the next segment. And by the way, a lot of you in the chat room, for example, Chris was a meteorologist. Chris was at the Navy. I want to make sure I get this right. He was also a part of Special Ops. I spent 7 years with Special Ops in Okinawa. Hard life and not for everyone. Then Provo Cougar fan, Space Force. Never heard of Major Spock or Colonel Kirk. The Air Force messes up everything. Go Navy. All right. Also from Texas
Buckeye.
Didn't
say Space Force. I said Space Farce.
I know. I just
okay.
Kirk was a corpsman in the Navy. Texas Buckeye, 1953. Appreciate all. And there's others. I didn't get to all of you. But we appreciate those of you who did serve for our great country.
I respect a meteorologist with stakes. If you're a military meteorologist, you can't that's not just don't go outside, you can't play golf today. That's real stakes there.
Chris is in the Air Force. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. All right, Jalen Peachtree on Sunday, Houston lost to Chicago. The former Baylor All-American. 8 tackles, 2 tackles behind the line of scrimmage, and a sack. 2 picks, 2 interceptions, and also a defended pass, a PBU, passes broken up. He is already, if you watched him, he was phenomenal. Was that going to carry over to the NFL? The instincts, the speed, he seems to be having a phenomenal start to his career with the Houston Texans, despite the fact they're 0-2-1.
Yeah, he's performing well, but let's remember he was a very high second-round pick, so there were expectations for him. That's not a flyer pick for anybody. So they They took him, when everybody had a go around, and I wonder how many teams are going to wish that maybe they would have drafted him in the first round. There was some scuttlebutt about that perhaps happening at different points in the buildup, but yeah, he ultimately was a top 40, or was he number 50 overall? No, Taekwon was number 50 overall. So yeah, Petrie was top 40. But yeah,
he's right there in the 30s, wasn't he? Like drafted
top 40 would be 30s,
like right after the first round ended.
Yeah, it was shortly after that. But yeah, he's gotten off to a good start. I'm not that surprised by it. That's what I expect, and I'm sure there are probably others that are, for whatever reason. He's undersized or this or that, but I'm not surprised. That's what Jalen Petrie's done pretty much since we first heard his name.
By the way, speaking of which, serving our country, Jacob Wilson in our studio, Marine, still active duty in the Marines, and we appreciate him. We knew him before he joined the Marines, when he was a part of the station where we were at before he moved on and helped us serve our country. Coming up next, Baylor's Director of Athletics, Mack Rhoades, on many things, including the game coming up this week. Oklahoma State in town on Saturday, 2:30 kickoff. This is 365 Sports. The city of Woodway, 7 hotels. In fact, let's say you are coming in, or you are trying to plan for another home game in Waco, or you're coming in town to see the silos, or perhaps to come and visit and look around at its balconies. And a lot of the things, the changes in downtown and around Waco has been phenomenal in the 12 years I've been here. So if you're on your way, and it's becoming a tourist attraction area. I mean, it really is. So the hotels, of course, are loaded up. There's a bunch of them. And they have 7 hotels in the city of Woodway. If you would like, you can go to discoverwoodway.com for that information. They have, of course, trails, hiking trails, biking trails. Beautiful, beautiful place to host any kind of a special event. The Carleen Bright Arboretum for weddings and rehearsals and group meetings or gatherings and reunions and whatever else you do, including business-type meetings as well, or symposiums. It's discoverwoodway.com.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
The wait is over. Richard Carr GMC has the trucks. 2022 GMC Sierras have hit the lot and they're waiting for you. Sierra trucks offer best-in-class towing, strong steel beds, multi-pro tailgates, and advanced features that make driving a Sierra second to none. Trucks are waiting for you to test drive now. So call now, log in now, or get here now and drive your next truck today at Richard Carr.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Our weekly segment with Baylor Director of Athletics Mack Rhoades is brought to you by Edward Jones Investments Brokers, Tom Albers, Brad Wilson, Ben Erlinson, and Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
For those of you joining us just now on the show, we had some great people in our building, in our studio earlier today from the U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, and that is the helmet, the black mat helmet, the U.S. Army recruiting helmet on our set today. We're now joined by Mack Rhoades, Director of Athletics at Baylor. And Mack, thank you for your time. What a weekend. What a tremendous weekend. Craig just mentioned that Saturday will be exactly 365 days, and Baylor and Oklahoma State are meeting for the third time in that span. Can you even see a scenario where this game's not completely sold out?
Yeah, I hope not. I mean, we're close, and we certainly would like to announce a sellout before we kick it off. And quite frankly, I'd be really disappointed if we didn't have a sellout. I think this particular opponent game, Oklahoma State. I think it's turning into a great rivalry for the Big 12. And you think about last year in the Big 12 championship game and the attendance at the game itself, second largest in Big 12 champ game history, and the viewership, the numbers of people that watched, certainly ahead of the ACC and the Pac-12 by a long shot. And two teams that are again ranked, highly ranked. And I think it's turning into a great rivalry. I certainly personally have tremendous respect for, the Oklahoma State athletic program. I did when Coach Holder was the athletic director, and certainly that hasn't changed under Chad Weiberg and, Coach Gundy, which, we all know. He spent a little time here at Baylor. He's done an unbelievable job. I think I can speak on behalf of Coach Aranda. He's got great respect for Coach Gundy and their staff and their program. So, I'm looking forward to a great college football game. And yes, this game should be a sellout. We shouldn't just sell out when we play Oklahoma and Texas. This game means a lot. Home field advantage means a lot when we think about outcome of game. And I think, the outcome of game, will certainly, play a part in how teams finish down the line. And, I know that there's been a little bit of activity on the secondary market, meaning certainly not a lot, but there are some that hold season tickets right now that are putting their tickets on the secondary market. Again, just be real candid, disappointing. And we need Baylor fans in the stands this Saturday for our kickoff versus Oklahoma State.
Are Baylor fans good at paying attention to various colors that you want to be the main core of the stadium at football games?
Yeah, I think when we've done that in the past, I think our fans have done a great job of buying in. And as this is the gold, and we want our fans to show up in gold and show out. And, we're giving away 20,000 gold pom-poms. They'll be available at every gate. We've got 3,000 rally towels that were given away at Touchdown Alley. So, hopefully we walk into that stadium and it's all gold and we know that, Oklahoma State will have some fans there and there'll be a little bit of orange, but it needs to be just an accent of orange, and the majority needs to be gold.
Mack, you mentioned about the budding rivalry. Well, Oklahoma State is losing their biggest rival. They're going to another conference. You guys, this is a whole new thing. Is this one of the more exciting parts of the coming new Big 12 conferences? You're going to have new rivalries that all of a sudden were kind of in the middle of the road, but now mean the world to everybody?
Yeah, I think so. You look at, both of the football programs and even beyond, just football. But Oklahoma State is a great program and they're certainly nationally relevant. And I think it's a game that college football fans are going to be excited to watch. Not just Baylor fans and Oklahoma State fans, but college football fans. And, we've got a long tradition and rivalry with TCU, and that, I think that will only continue to get stronger. But this is an opportunity for something, another matchup that I think is special within the Big 12.
Mack, your thoughts on kind of another little rivalry. I think that's, got some heat to it, which is Baylor and Iowa State. Seems like every time these two teams play, there's always just some, crazy game. But your thoughts on being able to go into Ames and learning from, the trip to BYU, obviously, a couple of weeks ago, but just also getting better over the last couple of weeks. What'd you make of that outcome?
Yeah, I think, probably the best word would be just relief. That's a really good football program, and again, have the greatest respect for Iowa State and Coach Campbell, and that's a really, really hard place to win. We know that well. We hadn't won there since 2016, and I think going in, the series was like 11-9, with us with a slight edge. You look at the last couple games, really, really close. Last year, our place, we had to, have an interception on the 2-point conversion. And so it's always a battle with them. And I really respect personally the way they play football. There's a toughness to them. There's a physicality to them. They're well coached. And that's just a really hard place. I can't remember the statistic, but I think you guys probably know it better than me, but, I think they had a 11-game, Big 12 winning streak there at home, something like that. And so proud of our team. And, I think every game, our younger guys, and we're playing a lot of young men, that they're getting just a little bit better each and every game. So it was really a big win for us. And not to overstate it, we're going to have to play, no doubt, this Saturday the best football we've played all year long to have a chance.
You're right. Yeah, 11 games. Been 3 years since they had lost a Big 12 home game, Iowa State. So, yep, you're right on there.
Hey, I'm just glad we played in September rather than in November.
Yeah,
so.
No doubt.
Mack, there was a story about a week ago or so. There was one about North Carolina, the chancellor, and others, the president, having discussions back when the USC-UCLA story popped or whatever else. How often do you and Dr. Livingstone discuss the future of the Big 12, even though right now the season's underway with so much going on? But how often do you have conversations with her?
Probably more frequent than what maybe people would imagine. We certainly had one yesterday. We meet regularly. What is regular? I think, probably once every 2 weeks, or we try to. Sometimes just with her schedule and my schedule, we can't. But, she does that with all of her President's Council members, individuals. And so, that's certainly an opportunity for us to talk about, just Big 12 future, how we're doing, where we're going, all of those things, NCAA issues, particularly with her role on the transformation committee. So yeah, it's pretty regular that we stay connected on those things.
Mack, not every athletic director is going to have a president who is not only as invested but as knowledgeable on sports as President Livingstone. How much easier does that make your job?
It's a great question. I think what it does is there's certainly a support and recognition of the way we try to do things here, where we really try to pour into our student athletes. It's person over player. It's our 4 pillars. It's all of those things because she was a student athlete, and she and obviously Brad, but they there's an appreciation for being a student athlete and how that can translate later in life, and your journey in life, and how that can be a great help. And so I think just the understanding and the support there. I think where I'm really grateful is that she trusts my team. She trusts me to run the athletic department, and we have the freedom to make the difficult decisions, and we steer the ship, and we create our strategic initiatives, and we create the vision, and hold people accountable to the plan, and all of that, and she's there to support all of it, and so certainly extremely grateful for that.
Mack, I asked Dave Aranda this yesterday about, and Craig had been wanting to know about the wide receivers, the transfer portal, because it was a young group. And there were a handful of guys out there that were obviously very, very talented that other teams were able to gobble up. His response to me, paraphrasing, was this: rather than go to the transfer portal, that doesn't mean you haven't, but rather than go to the transfer portal for wide receiver help, why not reconstruct the careers of receivers who have paid the price and performed for us in the past? Is that about as good an example of who he is, and also that person over player?
Yeah, it is. And again, I think, it speaks to his thoughtfulness, and, when you think about culture and team and unity, and I think, it's those things that he does and decisions he makes why I think we have a really tight roster, a real brotherhood within the team. And, you look at somebody like Gavin Holmes, like what a great story. And it's early, we're only 4 games in, and so still, 2/3 of the season left to play, hopefully more than just 2/3 left. But, that's a great example. And certainly there's others, but, I appreciate, the thoughtfulness of really investing in what we have, and carefully thinking about, that's where it starts for us, versus, hey, we're immediately going to go look at the transfer portal. And there'll be times when we're going to have to use the transfer portal, but I think we'll be very strategic and thoughtful in how we do it.
How good is Dave Aranda that he is the head coach at Baylor, LSU, USC, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Florida, and now Nebraska?
Yeah, pretty good. So I would just say that, look, as long as we continue to be successful, and particularly I think the way we're doing it, his name is going to be mentioned for all of those openings. And, I have a great appreciation for that. I think that speaks well to our program. It's a great reflection, not just on him, but the staff that he's put together. And primarily it's a great reflection on our student athletes. I think he's spoken about it before, but we certainly never take anything for granted. But I know that Dave feels really good about being the head coach at Baylor University, and he recognizes that he is a terrific fit here, that he can do things the way he wants to do them, that he's going to be supported, not just by words, but by action in terms of how he wants to do it. And so, I would certainly expect, Coach Aranda to be our head coach for a long time.
Mack, is there anything that can be done about the coaching calendar? I mean, I know there's, the football calendar that you're trying to, kind of make a 365-day-a-year calendar for football that's never really been done before the NCAA. But with coaches getting fired earlier and earlier, there's 3 big jobs already open 4 weeks into the season in college football, and there'll be more to follow, especially after the trends of last year. But to keep coaches focused on the job that they have and all these other things, to be fair, the places they are, is there anything you can do to change that, or is the, kind of fish out of water there?
Yeah. Paul, I think, certainly several of us, many of us, this has certainly been a conversation with football oversight. I think commissioners have had conversation about it. And, I don't think so. And that's probably the best way that I can answer it. Genie's out of the bottle. There's with the early signing period, right? And again, I've used this example before back in December of 16 when we hired Matt Rhule. There wasn't the early signing period, and so it gave Matt and that staff a time to put together a very depleted recruiting class. One member, remember, in Jalen Petrie, and by the way, what a game he had yesterday. Proud of him, more proud of the person he is, but just not surprised how well he's playing at the next level. But if you get rid of that early signing period, does that take some pressure off and maybe you don't have to make changes as early, because you've got this time to bring in somebody and you've got a little bit of time to recruit. I don't know if that fixes it. I think that even if we got rid of the early signing period, it's now become part of who we are and people wanting to get a head start. Now, I don't know, I don't know what you get a head start on necessarily. I mean, there's certainly things you can do, but can you really, I wouldn't think you're sitting here talking to candidates and they still have 8 games left on the, on their schedule. And look, I know I'm not naive, so I know that there's some of that's happening, unfortunately, or it's not necessarily with the candidate directly, but it's with the agent. And so that's obviously, unfortunately it is disruptive, even if it is with the agent, but that's the climate, the competitiveness, the need to win, and win early and no patience is driving all of this.
Mack, it does seem though, the governance, or the transformational committee, and again, Dr. Livingstone's involved in a lot of this, that even though the genie's out of the bottle, the dam broke because of a couple of years where everything just was wide open, it does seem like they're starting to at least grab, I don't know if it's control, but starting to maybe put a little bit more, okay, this, like for example, the transfer portal windows. There seems to be a little bit of, okay, too many things happen too quickly. Now, even though it may be too late, let's kind of bring some of this back in. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think there's some that we can maybe tweak and self-correct. And, obviously, this intersection of the transfer portal and name, image, and likeness, I don't think it's been good for our sport, for college athletics, and particularly, maybe more so in men's basketball than any other sport, but you're certainly seeing it in football and women's basketball and some others. And so I think the transfer portal piece, the windows, the implementation of the windows will be helpful. And still hanging on to, because there was conversation about, potentially, allowing student athletes to transfer once per year. Now all of a sudden, if that happens, right, it's a whole different ball game. And so, this idea of just being able to transfer just the one time. And so I think that's important that we're hanging on to that. I think, probably the biggest challenge out there for the transformation committee and just for college athletics is name, image, and likeness. And can it really be sustainable the way it is? You're starting to hear murmurs of particularly, just at some other places where, there have been donors, individuals that have, provided, significant amount of money and that student athlete leaves or that student athlete doesn't perform at the level that they expected him or her to perform at. You're starting to see things like, comparisons of football male student athletes versus female student athletes. And so is this really, really sustainable? And so, I think that's going to be something that we'll keep our eyes on. And is there a natural organic self-correction, or is there a combination of both, this maybe self-correction on its own and some different legislation down the road, whether it's via, the NCAA or it's via federal government or both.
Have you ever had to contact a booster or donor and tell them to calm down?
Wow. Yeah. Yes. I don't. I'm just trying to remember. I don't know that I've had to since I've been at Baylor, but I've had to do that before.
Okay. Mack, thank you very much. See you Saturday. Ought to be a great day. Oklahoma State, Baylor, a fantastic game among the top 25 and also with major implications in the Big 12. We appreciate your time.
Appreciate you all. Thank you.
Mack Rhoades, Director of Athletics at Baylor, with us Tuesdays, most every Tuesday in the 4 o'clock hour. Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, next on 365 Sports. Don's Humidor and Coffee Beans. I was there earlier today. I went by and said hi to Ashley and Cheyenne. They have a 48-foot walk-in humidor within the best brands of cigars. Cohiba, Padron. In fact, the 1964 Padron is the number one cigar in the world. I got a box from Ashley, and it was the number 6 Rocky Patel. I like the Rocky Patel. You might like Ashton. You might like Macanudo, Romeo and Julieta, Artur Fuente. They have one after another, the great brands of cigars. And one that I do like as well is La Fontana, the torpedo tip. And maybe even if you want the Churchill length as well. So if you love cigars, Don's Humidor and Coffee Beans is where you can get them. 48-foot walk-in humidor. Gummies that if you want to at night that allow you to have a much more restful and longer sleep when you want to go to sleep. And then also they have all the accessories you need for if you do smoke cigars, from humidors to cutters to lighters, torch lighters, and so much more, and fresh coffee beans. It's Don's Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
At Allen Samuels in Waco, during Ram Power Days, shop the year-after-year award-winning new 2022 Ram 1500, designed to be durable, functional, and stylish. This is a truck that's legendary. Get the first-class feel and luxurious leather trim seating options, exceptional legroom and storage, plus surround view camera options you'd expect from a premium truck. Allen Samuels in Waco is the place to shop for Ram trucks. Visit today or browse online at allensamuelsdcj.com.
Come by. Let's be friends.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or createacommotion.com.
All right, welcome into Off the Radar here on 365 Sports, a segment on Tuesdays and Thursdays right around 4:45 where we just take a grab bag of stories, or I take a grab bag of stories and throw them out there for comment and opinion, and try to round up stuff that we wouldn't necessarily talk about if we didn't have a segment to kind of devote to some of these things. And there will be some college football, as you know, the news dictates, but when it's a slower college football day, and just for the sake of trying to get to some other sports, I have a lot of other sports involved as well. And I know we will cover this in the next hour, but might as well stop down and have some discussion about last night's Monday Night Football game. I looked for the rating, with it being Dallas and New York, but I don't think that those are out just yet. And I saw where what was it, like Monday Night Raw? Somebody was looking for that rating on Twitter, and somebody who was in the know was like, oh, they're delayed by an hour. So I'm sure that's probably what's going on with the NFL. Just in general, the ratings are probably delayed. But I'm sure it'll be a huge number. But regardless of how many people were watching, Dallas took care of business 23-16 over the Giants. So in the absence of Dak Prescott, things actually going pretty okay for the Cowboys overall. And I just couldn't help. And I'm sure this joke's out there. I have not looked at all on Twitter, but I'm sure somebody's made a similar joke to what I was thinking last night of how, well, at least one part of me was thinking, thank God for Carson Wentz, because if not, the Washington football team would be offering Cooper Rush a 5-year, $150 million deal. I'm sure the Jaguars may be lining up. Like, somebody's watching that and going, Cooper Rush.
Trevor Lawrence is playing well. Yeah.
No,
I know.
You get the point, though. And so, that'll be interesting to see kind of how his stock rises. But it certainly was rising last night, 21-31 for 215, and the score doesn't jump off the page. But he played well enough for them to win. And your thoughts on the Cowboys beating the Giants?
You know why I think guys like Cooper Rush and Noah Brown and Matt Farniok are actually playing well right now? Because they played in the preseason. So they're more in a rhythm than everybody else, particularly Cooper Rush. He played a lot in the preseason. Dak didn't play at all. So Dak's first action against another team was against Tampa in the first week, which was really ugly, and now he's hurt. And so we'll see. Now, I don't buy into the whole, there's any kind of question when he comes back. Dak is the far better player, and they can do a lot more things with Dak in that offense. But what they have done for a coaching staff that is very much up against it, because there are rumors flying, and it looks to me like in the offseason the Cowboys decided to save money on their roster, which doesn't help their coach any when he's trying to win the division again, to be the first team since 2004 to win the division in the NFC East back-to-back. But, and Mike McCarthy is much maligned, and much of that's deserved. But these last couple of weeks, they have hunkered down and done a really good job.
Yeah, I mentioned Rush, but in particular, I should have stated the defense is playing exceptionally well, and that is as
fast.
Big a part of the reason as anything. And Michael Parsons is arguably the best defender in football. But yes, they had a great effort on both sides last night, and I don't know how you can sustain that necessarily, but I don't think they're going to have to with Cooper Rush, because Dak should be back relatively soon, and that will be interesting when he does come back. But I'm curious to see kind of what that final number was just in terms of people that tuned in. But obviously a huge win for the Cowboys. And for the Giants, they did get a little bit of bad news coming out of this game. Former Oklahoma wide receiver, and man, he was a stud at OU. But Sterling Shepard lost for the year, torn ACL in his left knee, according to Coach Brian Daboll. So his year is over. He is the longest tenured player on the Giants roster, which I didn't realize that until reading an article today. But he's been around for a little while, and also they've had a good bit of turnover. But he is in the final year of a deal that was restructured, and he had signed it, this past offseason when he was coming off of a torn Achilles. Yeah. So he had a bad night overall. He had a 15-yard penalty for what was considered to be offensive pass interference, which was a big play for the Giants. And I'm not sure about that call one way or the other. It didn't, again, I don't like talking about how calls affect the game. Number two, he also then got in the fight. He came off the sideline when they got into the scuffle, Sam Williams hitting Jones late, and had another 15-yard penalty, offsetting. Mm-hmm. And then he had the last play of the game where he just popped his knee. Yeah. He should not have gotten out of bed yesterday. Yeah, no, it was bad for him. I just wonder how much more go he's got at this point, because it just seems like he's, a guy who I remember thinking was going to be great because I was just a homer and, didn't know any better. But I thought Ryan Broyles, because he was so good at Oklahoma, was going to be just fantastic, and he was not. Good thing was he saved his money, and that was a big story about Ryan Broyles, was how he saved his money. But then there was Sterling Shepard. Okay, he's got to be a star, right? Yeah. And he's just been far too injured. Yeah, and last night's injury is one of those ones that you just feel awful for a guy. Non-contact, all that. Yep. He wasn't even cutting. He was running straight. He was almost like he was running straight and just started to slow down, and somehow something got caught, whatever. Yep. But nice win for the Cowboys. Back-to-back wins with Cooper Rush, who's 3-0 as a starter, and 2 of those 3 wins have been on the road. Yeah, no, it's worked out pretty well for them given the issues that you thought that they were going to face.
If he was on the open market today, how many of the 32 teams would go after him?
I mean,
10?
I don't know. We'd have to do I don't know about that. I don't know about 10.
What's ironic
Maybe.
about it is the Giants had him twice. The Cowboys, of course, let him go.
Do you want him over? I mean, who would be the first person you think of as on?
I don't know. I don't know who I'd want him over.
Like Justin Fields or
no. I don't know who I would want him over, but people overreact to certain things.
Oh no, that's why I had the whole thought of like who's going to sign him to a $150 million contract next.
And he might get a starting gig in the offseason from somebody who gets super desperate because of that.
Sure.
And the Cowboys will have to move on to the next one. There are also certain teams that when you do well with, you get like a nice bump. Ask Matt Flynn with the Packers. Did well with the Packers, got a nice little bump, right?
Seattle to the Raiders to the wherever.
Any receiver who's been the fourth guy in Dallas. Ask Cedric Wilson. Ask who was the dude that Tony Romo made so great that went to Jacksonville, made a bunch of money, and then they got him back. Not Stanback.
I know you're talking about.
But he had a real Tony Romo.
Sam
Hurd.
Not Sam Hurd.
He got in trouble.
But he went to the Jaguars the next year in free agency, made a bunch of money, and the next year the Jaguars cut him and he went back to the Cowboys.
Think about the Cowboys' timing, though. Romo, how did he become the starter?
Yeah, it's all
Bledsoe got hurt? Was it Bledsoe?
Yeah, Bledsoe got hurt.
Okay, how did Dak become the starter?
Romo got hurt.
How did Cooper get his opportunity?
Dak got hurt.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to compare all three of them together, but they've had some bad backup quarterback play, but they have seemed to have a little bit of a horseshoe when it comes to guys stepping in and doing what we've seen Cooper Rush do.
Yeah, I would also say, too, there's only so many ways for a guy to step in. It's either injury, retirement, or a guy's terrible. And I think that the terrible part usually takes a little longer just because of...
Because
they
of the
had a good run at terrible.
Because of the way you don't see guys now sit 2, 3, 4 years waiting for the veteran to leave. You play them right away.
If you remember, betwixt Aikman and Romo was a cavalcade of guys who were...
Whatever teams deal with all the time.
Guys who were either over the hill, a terrible decision in the draft, or a baseball player.
Or a name that they felt
or
like...
Or both. That was Quincy Carter.
And Hutchinson.
All right, moving on. The NFL announced yesterday that they will be doing away with the Pro Bowl as we know it. That has been a hot topic, I think, for... I don't know, the better part of a decade at least. I certainly feel like that's a conversation that's been going on for years. So instead of the Pro Bowl, you will now have the Pro Bowl games. It will still be, a festive thing, the NFL postseason All-Star Showcase. It just won't be in the form that we've come to know it for all these many years. The event, the Pro Bowl games, will take place in Las Vegas next year. I don't care about the presenting sponsor, but it will be a week-long celebration of player skills featuring an exciting new format that spotlights flag football. It will be a multi-day AFC versus NFC competition that will culminate, as the press release states, in an action-packed flag game featuring Pro Bowl players at Allegiant Stadium that will air both on ESPN and ABC on February the 5th, which is a Sunday, and that would be the week before the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
So the Super Bowl is February 12th?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. But yeah, they're going with the Pro Bowl games. They will be in conjunction as far as the production and the broadcast and all of that with Peyton Manning and Omaha Productions, which just seems to be on the cutting edge of pretty much everything in sports right now. But the Omaha Productions will have a key role in the whole event. Peyton Manning will be involved as well. And he'll be a part of the coaching staff for the AFC, NFC flag football game. So a lot of other details and whatnot to sort out. But what do y'all think about them trying to reconfigure the Pro Bowl festivities?
I used to watch that game. It used to be kind of entertaining. I haven't watched it in probably about as long as you mentioned. About
it's gotten to be really putrid as far as a game goes. And, people opt out. And you should. I mean, like, you're injured. It doesn't mean...
Was it one year in Miami they played, they traveled to where they started doing the game at where the Super Bowl site was?
Yeah, they started doing that years ago, yeah.
So this is now so this year it's in Las Vegas, and the 2024 Super Bowl is in Las Vegas. So if they're at the Super Bowl site the year before...
Well, because if you can handle the Pro Bowl, then but you can handle the Super Bowl.
But it does need to be in a place where, that's a good place. If you're going to go and take a trip somewhere in February Vegas where you can go to NFL stuff. And
it's definitely a sideshow.
Yeah.
Like it's not, I could see that just being an event that people go to and like as the background to the Vegas trip or vice versa. Yeah. So anyways, that's how they're going to do it starting this year or this next year, the Pro Bowl, competition as opposed to a game, and the Mannings, or at least Peyton, will have a big role in all of the broadcast and the organization of it and all that. They want to make mention, a little college football note here. Running back E.J. Smith of Stanford. It was announced by David Shaw that he is out for the year due to an injury. And he was, somebody who you heard a good bit of buzz about, but the reason why his name caught on, of course, was because he's the son of Emmitt Smith. And I was paying attention to him because of the fact that he's, a guy from Texas, played in the Dallas area. And so I was like, oh, great, they got a Texas player at Stanford, but he's going to be out for the rest of the year. So that's a tough blow for the Stanford Cardinal.
I had heard about him, but then the first time he really popped on my radar was, I think it was his junior year or senior year, when Jesuit beat Longview in a playoff game, and E.J. Smith was a major part of that. I was like, wow, because Jesuit beating Longview is not going to happen. They were that good that year, and he was a major part of that. Mm-hmm. And, of course, going to Stanford, and wish him the best in recovery.
Yeah, he had over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns so far this season, was averaging nearly 7 yards a carry. It'll be interesting to see, how he tries to bounce back. He's a junior, but as we know, like I was looking through a program the other day, and there was a guy who'd been in college for like 7 years, and he was a redshirt sophomore. It was wild, to see that, but that's kind of with the COVID year and transfers and all of that. So I don't know how this works out for him and, all of that, but he does have some eligibility left. So we'll see what happens with E.J. Smith, but best of luck to him because he was off to a nice start and is a good player. And now the blood-boiling segment, especially for Oklahoma State fans out there. The NCAA made a decision today in regards to one of the backlog cases, I guess you could say, that's in front of them and has been in front of them. And this one in particular involved Memphis basketball and Coach Penny Hardaway, an investigation into providing benefits to recruits and, just wasn't a good look, impermissible recruiting activities of meeting with people when you're not supposed to, failure to cooperate with the investigation, failure to monitor, on and on and on, extra benefits, like the gamut. Well, independent panel determined today that Memphis basketball coach Penny Hardaway did not violate NCAA rules in providing benefits to prospective student athletes. They did rule that Memphis failed to monitor the education and activities of a booster. They did provide impermissible extra benefits. They did conduct impermissible recruiting activities with prospective student athletes and failed to cooperate with the investigative process by delaying the production of requested documents. Originally were placed on 3 years probation, and they had some of their budget slashed and got some violations for that. But they were facing 4 level 1 and 2 level 2 violations. This was an 18th-month investigation, and the NCAA had originally said that Hardaway had failed to demonstrate that he promoted an atmosphere of compliance within the basketball program and had failed to monitor his staff, and also accused him of the dreaded lack of institutional control. So there was a lot to unpack, but all for naught. He was accused of all these things, and the IARP, comes back with the decision that the philanthropic involvement happened prior to Hardaway. That was part of how he got around this. But basically, the gist of it is Penny Hardaway and Memphis aren't going to get in trouble for clearly doing some things outside the lines of bounds. And Oklahoma State, just let me finish this. Oklahoma State, I don't know who formed this tweet, but anybody else probably would have done the exact opposite. OSU Athletics, shortly after this news broke, good for the student athletes at these universities who were not punished. Jeff Goodman came out with a tweet, and he said, let's try and summarize this so far. NCAA hits Alabama, South Carolina, USC, Creighton, TCU, Auburn, NC State, and Memphis with basically nothing. Auburn self-imposed a postseason ban in a year in which it knew it wasn't going. Oklahoma State, meanwhile, 1-year postseason ban. And that's when OSU Athletics responded, good for the student athletes at these universities who are not punished unfairly for something they had nothing to do with years after it happened. So there's a little mic drop, classy, one of
the things that Oklahoma State got penalized for, was the guy that was the one who was the problem, refused to cooperate with the NCAA well after he was no longer at Oklahoma State. And that was the reason that I've read up. that was one of the reasons they popped Oklahoma State even harder, even though he was gone. And this, this thing here, now Kansas will be a part of this large list next. They're not going to punish Kansas, Paul.
No.
Should they?
No. Look,
should they pump? Should they? No. But Memphis.
His fiance's not listening, Paul. Say what you really feel.
No,
like.
they should. Look,
I'm just kidding.
They shouldn't. Take me to when the NCAA had some nuggets. Then yeah, maybe. But now they don't.
If it was Kansas State, would they get punished?
No. Well, I mean, I think the Oklahoma State thing was sometimes they do things to try to,
just so they can show they can.
To show they can. They did that there, and then they just kind of, shut the door on them, and all this other stuff is too much for them. Plus, everything, it's now, and here's the other reason they shouldn't punish Kansas. They've taken too long to do it.
No, that's another thing. It took 5 or 6 years before they eventually came around to making decisions on Baylor.
You're not punishing anybody who had anything to do with anything.
Yeah.
So, that's unfortunate for the Cowboys who have already had to deal with this and are continuing to. And meanwhile, you look around and there's others who maybe are even more egregious that are just, nope, they're free and clear. So, very interesting decision. Not, I guess, all that surprising given, the NCAA and just how unpredictable all of that can be, but especially right now, just how much power do they really have. But, Memphis can go on about their business, basically, and so can Penny Hardaway, and those are a few things off the radar.
Thank you, Craig, very much. We appreciate it. So, Penny Hardaway was able to because of what he did on philanthropically, was able to get things done, and they said, okay, we can't hit him for that. I do think they just get a big map, throw 2 darts. Those 2 are down, and the other ones just get to walk away. Yeah. All right, when we come back, Joe, former Baylor quarterback, Baylor radio analyst, he'll join us next on 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. Got a lot of great deals going on right now over at Richard Carr. They are the people that you can count on, and they have been that for quite a long time here in Central Texas. I had my car serviced over at Richard Carr, even though I didn't buy it there originally. But now that I've had that already happen a couple of different times, taking it over there to get serviced, that's the place that I'm going to keep going to because I can vouch for the tremendous customer service that they do have over at Richard Carr. But if you're in the market for a vehicle, the wait's over, and they've got trucks in stock. 2022 GMC Sierras are on the lot and are waiting for you to come in and test drive today. Sierras offer the best-in-class towing, multi-pro tailgate, strong steel bed, advanced collision avoidance, and a luxurious interior that includes massive touchscreens, 14 camera views, as well as premium comfort. So again, the Sierras are in stock and waiting for you to test drive now. Get to the dealership and drive your next truck today. But if the exact truck or SUV that you're looking for is not in stock, not on the lot, get on their inbound vehicle list, and you basically cut in line to get that truck or SUV that are not quite ready, that are still in production but not in stock just yet. You can go ahead and get your placeholder, so to speak, for that ride and get into it as soon as it's ready. Or you can let the dealership, Richard Carr, help you design the exact truck or SUV you want, and they will have GMC prioritize it for you. They got new trucks on the lot, dozens of quality pre-owned cars and trucks in stock as well. All of those have gone through a 172-point inspection, so you can drive with peace of mind and with dozens of lending options. Richard Carr says yes when others say no. So check out the people you can count on for 23 years in Central Texas, having built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. Richard Carr, run by proud Wacoans, proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
1, 2. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. He cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
Looking for a great job with great pay and awesome benefits? Genco FCU is hiring. As a longtime Waco employer, Genco focuses on what matters most in our employees' lives, like pay incentives, bonuses, benefits, 401k plans, paid time off, advancement opportunities, medical, prescription, dental, and vision insurance, as well as short and long-term disability. Come join our incredible team today and make Genco your career that will work for you. Apply at gencofcu.org or at any branch location.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Arturo Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
It's football and tailgate season. If you want product for the grill or smoker, charcoal, seasonings, marinades, sauces, Waco Custom Marketplace is your home to help prep, cook, and enjoy your food. Tailgate must-like brisket, tri-tip, fresh-made burgers, sausage, chicken wings, and if you want steaks, call in your order and pick them up. Bacon wrap fillets or any kind of ribeyes. USDA Select Choice and Prime that melt in your mouth. House-made sausage and jerky. Also, Waco Custom Marketplace, a one-stop shop for tailgating, barbecue cook-offs, and family get-togethers, fundraisers with fair prices to you, the customer. A bakery with fresh baked bread and kolaches. There's cold beer, wine, and soft drinks. Serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. A cut above the rest. Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
And Reese, no chance. It's a keeper. Look at the quarterback shaping. Fooled everyone. Touchdown, Baylor.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Second down and 15. Joe Bonner. He's loose. He's got his second touchdown. No flags. 69 yards on that score. Tony Bowie missed the tackle. And somewhat shockingly, this game is tied.
It's time for our weekly segment with former Baylor quarterback J.J. Joe. Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go, this 5 o'clock hour. J.J. Joe, John McLean at the bottom of the hour. Paul's top 5 in about 50 minutes. J.J. joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. So how about Blake Shapen, Oklahoma State, and how well he played in that first half last year? Is that something that helps or does it matter this weekend?
I think it helps because he has an idea of kind of how they want to attack him. Now, they've changed defensive coordinators, so he's going to have to rely a little bit more on, just the tape instead of kind of his memory. So the success is good. He has opportunities. He has at least a positive memory for the most part. But still, I mean, it'll be a real challenge because they've seen what he likes to do. And like anything, Smoak, once they see what you want to do, they're going to try to take that away. So it's good about the memories, but they're going to change it up a little bit, I bet.
JJ, this was the first time that Baylor looked like they executed their game plan the way they wanted to this year without any kind of restarts or adjustments in the middle. How important is that going at Oklahoma State?
I think that is very much important. Like rhythm is always big, but I think for them, really just for this team, if I think about it, it's really just the confidence. And I talked about this on the radio more so than anything is that, for this team, to me, they can beat anybody on their schedule. Number one, they can't, but they can lose to anybody to remain on their schedule. But I think for this team, really, I think it's the learning. This is the second year in a row, I think, that I've seen this team learn from something. That's really coaching staff deal. So I think, I think for this team in going into Saturday, the positive feel they got that, hey, we went to BYU, we played well, offensive, defensively, all the way around. And Paul, really, I think that to me is the main thing about this team, man, is that they learn from game to game. They reduce the penalties. They learn how to deal with road issues. And that was the thing that really stuck out to me is that, Coach Aranda's teams, whatever he's doing to get across to him, he gets it across to him.
JJ, just in terms of just how they looked and kind of how that game unfolded, when did you start to feel pretty good about things? Was it that opening scripted drive, although Iowa State did the exact same thing? When did that game start to kind of tilt in Baylor's favor in your mind?
I never felt real comfortable because we got a lead, and at the end of the half, they scored. It was almost a mirror image of BYU. You played, I thought, really well, got the breaks, you got the calls, and you're only up. What was it? I think it was 7 or 10. I mean, it was closer than it should have been, maybe 10. But, to me, when I really felt comfortable, I guess, and I shouldn't have, is when we got the flea flicker touchdown. We were up 31 to 14 or whatever, 17, whatever the close score was. I said, okay, everything's working now. Everything's working. And, like anything, we go into kind of what I would call our normal zone kind of approach, and they put up one on us and kind of made it closer than I thought it should be. But at Iowa State, it's always a tough game. I never really felt comfortable, especially when they scored pretty quickly to close it to I think it was a score game or whatever. So, man, I would say probably the flea flicker did it, but still, that last run at me, just that onside kick is when I felt best.
What did they do to give Shapen some opportunities in the run-pass option on the edges?
Early on, I thought they did a good job because Iowa State, I think they knew exactly what they were going to get from Iowa State. Iowa State is not a pressure team. They're a zone team, keep everything in front, make a play, see if you can drive down. And the weird thing about this Baylor team here is that they actually play better that way. They actually play better when you make them run plays. It's an odd thing. And so early they spread Iowa State out. They gave Blake some really quick, easy reads. He knew what he was going to get. He was decisive, and I thought that helped get him going. To me, Blake has to make a couple quick throws and that's how he gets his confidence. And once he knew what he was going to get, even though, there's still some reading that goes into it, I think that confidence had already been built. Then the running game slowly started to come. It took it a while to really get going, but it was effective enough to make Iowa State at least pay attention to it. And then he was able to get a few quick throws, got his tight ends involved, a lot of play action. And I thought that really was good for him, especially early on the road when you really struggled at Provo.
JJ, can that Hal Presley catch launch him into, showing more of that moving forward?
Oh, man, I hope so. Because that's when I said, okay, that's why they recruited this young man right there. I mean, he's a contested catch, kind of guy. And some people like that. Like, there's some that are route runners. There's some that are, blow by guys. There's some that are possession guys. There's some guys, that's what they do. They're a contested catch, Moss kind of guy. So I was surely glad to see him make that catch. And I think as a young player, that's all he needs. He just needed something that was huge. It felt like he contributed to the win. And hopefully what that means is they can integrate Monterey a little bit more. He got one catch for 3 yards. And you got Ben, of course. Dabney had a good little showing. And, you still have Steph. So it was really good to see that from Hal.
Does it matter that Baylor has played BYU and Iowa State and Oklahoma State and hasn't really been challenged yet?
I think it does. I mean, like some people say it doesn't. I think you saw it on Saturday with OU. When people were talking OU, I told my friends, I said, they're good, but they're not that good. And hopefully they don't record me and say this is what this guy, the color guy from Baylor said. But no, don't get me wrong. I said they're good, but I thought I said, hey, look, they caught Nebraska at the right time. If you're OU, I mean, Nebraska's a storied program, but we know they've been struggling. I think they played UTEP and Kent State, solid programs, but they're not at the level that OU is going to participate at. And they caught Nebraska at the perfect time, I thought. They were in transition. They were hoping they would get this energy up front. They got it, but they couldn't sustain it. And so I thought with Oklahoma, I said, hey, Kansas State, they lost the game. They've been in a fight. OU hadn't. And I think the same thing with us. I think, for Oklahoma State, don't get me wrong, these guys, they know how to play at a certain level, but I think it helps us to have been in 2 real good fights early in the season. And Oklahoma State, they've been in the fight. Central Michigan was tougher than they thought it would be. They came back on them, but this is going to be one of those fights where you got that kid on the block and you thought you could mess with him and you forgot, that kid's pretty tough. This is going to be a long day. So I think it helps Baylor.
JJ, when do you start working on the next game as a broadcaster? Do you kind of decompress on Sunday after a game, for example, in Ames, and you start maybe by Sunday evening? I know information either sent to you and you do your own. When does that start? What's that like for you each week?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I usually try to start watching the next week, really not until, Tuesday, Wednesday. I kind of like to go back and I look at, highlights from the last game and just see, who. Because a lot of times, you forget how our guys play. You really don't pay as much attention to what our line play was like as much. You just know, hey, there's a big hole. I was interested to see how Mo Jeffrey played. Thought he played a solid game, because, of course, Grant was out. So I'll start really focusing on Oklahoma State. I think I watched part of the Central Michigan game, but I'll start really focusing on them tomorrow and then Thursday and Friday.
JJ, I thought Dave Aranda had a really interesting comment in his one-on-one, and I don't know how much you can really shine light on this, but best you can. He was talking about the wide receivers. I was curious, just curiosity's sake. I wanted to know how much they really looked at the transfer portal in terms of their receiving options because of the fact that, as we pointed out, there's not a lot of experience there. And he basically answered that, he and the coaches talked about it, but ultimately they looked at basically this island of misfit toys, guys who had been injured and kind of forgotten about or, tossed to the wayside, and felt like, hey, if we just pour everything we can into these guys, they've got the talent. They're our transfer portal guys. They're already on our roster. What do you think that ultimately means to players when they have that kind of a vote of confidence from their coach?
No, I think, I think it means a lot, to be honest with you, Craig. I mean, these coaches say person over player. And when you look down the pike, I think the challenging thing with coach was he knew that this team had an opportunity to do something special again. I mean, it's hard to replicate. You never can replicate or duplicate it. But he knew that he had a lot of really good returning players, and really the hole was going to be probably his edge defenders, his corners, because they'll be inexperienced, and his edge wide receivers, players on the edge of the offense. And so I'm sure they look, but I think after a moment they say, hey, look, man, we got kids, young men who are really talented. We just have to coach them. And we hope by the end of the season, and that's what you hope. You just really hope that by the end of the season, when you get to week 6, 7, 8, someone in that group of talented young men start to really step up. And I think you have. I think Hal made a catch, and I think Seth made a catch a couple weeks ago. And you just hope these young men start picking it up. Monterey, you hope he gets back in. So when you get into the meat of the schedule, in the Big 12, that starts like every week now that everybody is very competitive. you hope they're ready to go at a high level.
Did you see an edge from the offensive line that even Dave Aranda or Eric Mateos, we can't talk to him, that maybe thought was missing the first 2 or 3 weeks?
You know, it's interesting. I mean, I thought they played really well. I wrote that yesterday. I thought the offensive line played their best game. And the reason I thought that is I think that the game plan allowed them to get to the point to attack. I mean, it was I thought Coach Grimes called his best game this year. I mean, he saw some great games. I thought this year he really kept Iowa State off balance. And then they got to the point to where nothing was just huge. They had a couple of nice plays, like, Howes and a big run. But, man, they started mauling these guys. And, I mean, it's been a while since I've seen an Iowa State team start missing tackles and couldn't get off blocks. Those guys usually are solid defensively. And they got to the point late third, starting to the fourth, where I knew we could run it anytime we wanted to. And Squirrel and Reese ended up, I think, combined with, wasn't a lot of yards, but they were like 31 for a 114 and 117 and a touchdown. I bet you probably 60 to 70 of those came in that late in the game because they just couldn't tackle them. They were getting blocked.
Did you like that Lemire, Snacks, who made what almost became an incredibly great play until the bounce that Brock was able to get it back in possession? There's a couple, Neal, some of these younger names were a part of some of the plays that we saw in Ames?
Yeah, I really was. I'm glad you brought that up, Dave, because I know Lemire made that. He actually, the interception I think that Neal made, I believe Lemire is the one that started that play. He dove into a slant, deflected the ball up, and I think it bounced off somebody, and I think Neal caught it. That was a special play. I mean, the recognition he saw, as soon as he saw the quarterback turn, boom, he went full speed. That's recognition, film study. And then Lorando Snack, John, he played a solid game. I know he had a couple, I think, guys made catches on him, but that play to keep running, and I think they got him. I think they really got him because they called that out. I was very surprised they overturned it because I never saw an angle they showed us that he actually had possession of it before he went out.
Yeah.
But that was a huge play. That's an effort play. That's the one that they'll play over and over about. This is the kind of level of effort we want.
I agree. And Dave said that. Aranda mentioned that as well. Man, thank you. We appreciate your knowledge, insight, and your experience. And Saturday, again, 2:30, it is Oklahoma State Baylor. J.J. Joe on the broadcast on Baylor Radio and former Baylor quarterback. Thanks for your time, sir.
Thanks, guys.
J.J. Joe. He also will write pieces in the Sikkim365.com premium section. And if you are ever interested in that, there are one after another, whether summarizing what just happened, game day stuff, little bits and pieces and opinion pieces and X's and O pieces throughout the weekend and also throughout the week on many different things besides just Baylor football.
Yeah, so a couple little updates here. We got the hurricane that's looming. What's the name of the hurricane?
Ian.
Okay. Hurricane Ian that's looming. SMU and UCF has been rescheduled for Sunday at noon. So that's now going to be a Sunday game. Meanwhile, Georgia, which is due to head out to Missouri this Friday, Kirby Smart said that as of now, they do believe they'll be able to get out of Atlanta. That's the plan, that they'll be okay, but they're obviously checking to see if that goes awry. And then Florida State also putting out a statement saying that after the recent briefing, they're confident they'll be able to still host on Saturday against Wake Forest at the scheduled time. So they're also keeping an eye out. But, yeah, just the one move so far is SMU and UCF to Sunday at noon. So loaded schedule.
All right, do you have the FSU Planet? This is a tweet. There's wording with this. Did you not?
It's the Death Star, Smokey.
It's the Death Star. Someone put the wording on it was, some people thought that this was no longer in existence, but it's back.
We'll see if it's back.
Oh, that always works well.
We'll see. We'll see.
We need their back club. There's Texas, Florida State,
Miami.
We'll
Miami.
See. Their schedule, now that they're 4-0, for them to get back to a bowl game is very favorable for them to do that. It is not favorable, though, I would think, in the next 3 weeks where they have to play Wake, NC State, and Clemson back-to-back. So
hey, go beat them. Go take control of that division.
If they can go 2-1 out of that, then I'll have a. We'll have a. No, I'm saying. So let me finish my sentence. If they can go 2-1 out of that, then I will have a different feeling. But if they're 1-2, I'll be almost equally as happy. If they can win one of those 3 games, then that's a step forward.
Okay.
So if they beat any one of those 3 teams, especially if it's Clemson, dear God.
5-2.
Yeah, that puts them at 5-2 with still Georgia Tech, Louisiana, Miami, Syracuse, and Florida on the schedule. So they can find another win or 2 in that bunch.
It's just nice that there's progress, and it may be even more progress than most people, including Paul, thought. All right, we're not done. John McLean, of course, a Hall of Fame writer, will join us in just a little bit as well. There was a comment or two from Chris. Chris asked me about. We had a couple of super chats, and we didn't. I did read one of them. He was asking me about what happens, and to me, nothing. If Sarkisian and the Texas, there's so much angst about this. In fact, if they drop another game, they cannot afford another coaching change right now. They just can't. Even if it falls apart, they just can't. What they need, which is again like many fan bases with lack of patience, and again, it's like Auburn. Texas is like this, where it's just someone writes a check and then you go on to the next person. First of all, I don't think they're going to go fall off the table like they've done in recent years. I think they're just explosive enough to be explosive enough. But that was one of the super chats from Chris on what might happen there.
Yeah, I said before the season, I don't think there's any chance that Sark gets fired, and I feel the exact same way. I just think that that's people overreacting because it's Texas and not understanding the situation of, financially what they're already still committed to with previous coaches. And also just, this is not like timing-wise a great time to start trying to, as you transition into a new conference and new competition and all of that. I don't know if this is the best time to make the move. And I think you got to eventually just let Sark let it play out. So to me, he was already safe no matter what they did this year, barring them getting blown out in every game. Like that would obviously have changed things, but I felt like he was safe regardless. And I feel like even with the loss to Tech and even with potentially some more losses on the way, that because of Quinn Ewer's injury, that's the ultimate mulligan, and absolutely nothing's going to happen to Sark because they'll all just say, well, if they would have had Quinn Ewers, for however long that lasts, mind you, but until he comes back, those losses are not exactly what they would be in a different situation.
Also, I think you would like to get Arch Manning on campus before you send Sark.
That's kind of an ace in the pocket or ace in a hole. From Deval, I think it's Davodz. It may be David Z. I thought if I supported this channel financially, it would help the Cyclones beat Baylor. Will my contribution help Iowa State beat Kansas this weekend? Ha! Keep up the content.
We
failed you.
Beat Kansas. I do think Iowa State beats Kansas this weekend. That's who I'm rolling with. So I don't know if your contribution helps that. Let's just say that it does, though. So thank you. And for anybody else that wants their team to win, send that contribution as well, and we'll ensure whatever we can over here.
I'm Italian. Depending on how big your contribution is, I can make some things happen.
Horse heads. You can put a horse's head.
Just saying.
I'm picking Iowa State, though.
I haven't decided on games this weekend yet. I really haven't. But Kansas is they could put up points. Now I know Iowa State's defense is pretty good, but they gave up 30. How many Baylor have?
I'm not picking Iowa State because of anything about Kansas. I'm picking Iowa State for Iowa State reasons. And I know that Kansas is unbeaten right now, but I don't think they've necessarily played somebody as good as Iowa State. And I don't know how good Iowa State is, but I know that they're not any pushover coming off of a loss to Baylor.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm kind of thinking there.
Okay. All right.
My concerns are I agree with 100% everything that Craig said. Plus, I just think that Kansas's defense leaves a little bit to be desired, but what can really scare you, especially going against a team like Iowa State, who's not exactly going to, score, in the 40s every week, is that if they have one really good quarter and a half, Iowa State might be behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
A lot of people in the chat room, Lee Buttercup, Iowa State is tough, picking them also over Kansas. I haven't even thought about this weekend's game. I haven't thought about as far as predictions. We didn't have the greatest weekend. We didn't. I had Texas Tech won. I had Oklahoma, Kansas State won. I had Iowa State. We all did. Baylor won. And there was Texas A&M and Arkansas.
I
had
told y'all
Arkansas.
that was happening.
You wanted to change it. We all had think at Arkansas. A&M won. And I don't even know about a couple of the other games.
TCU and SMU, I got that one wrong.
I had TCU.
I had SMU.
I had Tennessee. And there was maybe one other game in that mix.
Yeah, it was a bad week. I mean, Texas, in theory, should have won that game. I mean, they were fully in control, not to the point of like they had their, they had Tech pinned or anything, but they were getting pretty close. And just to Tech's credit, they were able to make a few plays.
31-17, and they
that was a bad loss.
Yeah, you look at the losses they've had in the last couple of years. They led Baylor 21-10 or whatever it was at halftime a year ago, whatever the score was, give or take 4. They led Oklahoma and looked like they were on the verge of blowing them out at halftime a year ago. Then Superman Caleb Williams came in and did his thing. They've had these leads, and there's another one, a 14-point lead. And when you have a 14-point lead and you have Bijan Robinson and Roshan Johnson to be able to just slam the ball in, in the running game, and you can't. The
guy who's supposed to slam fumbled right as overtime started.
I know. Yeah. All right, and I hate it for him. He's a hell of a player, but that was a bad moment, no doubt about it. Now, when we come back, John McLean, NFL writer for what he does with GallerySports.com and also Sports 610 in Houston, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Pickup Outfitters. Man-sized trucks need man-sized step up into the cab. There was a friend of mine, I played golf with him on Sunday morning, and he had a big Jeep, and it was lifted up off the ground. And I said, do you have one of those steps that when you open the door or when you go pop the lock, the step comes out? He goes, no, I probably need to get one of those because it was just high enough to where you probably slam your shin into the door or trying to get into the cab. When you do. And I told him, I said, hey, go see Jay Everett. Tell him I sent you at Pickup Outfitters. Man-side trucks, again, family SUVs can be a climb for the missus and or the children. Help them out. Make the entry smooth and easy by putting in some step bars or running boards. Again, just for what you need for your SUV, your truck, and or vehicle. Also, do you like the current truck? Wish you had leather seats? Pickup Outfitters is an authorized dealer and installer of the premium Catskin leather kits. Get factory matching, customize them the way you want with the color, stitching, and embroidery, and added heat and cooled seats to be comfortable no matter the Texas weather, which we know can change once it does start to change. Pickup Outfitters in Jay Everett, Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive, createacommotion.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texans are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with NFL Hall of Fame columnist John McLean. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943. Read John's work at GallerySports.com and SportsRadio610.com.
All right, John McLean. Known for what he does for many years and continues to do with the NFL, but is also very capable of jumping right into everything else in college football and sports around America, and joins us on Tuesday. So, John, have the Dolphins surprised you with what they're doing with Tua and the weapons, of course, with Hill, among others, Waddle, and the big win against Buffalo?
Absolutely. To be 3-0, one of 2 3-0 teams is amazing. And to beat Buffalo was amazing. I don't care if it was in Miami. And the way they beat them with the Bills dominating the game and Miami winning the game was also amazing. Now, something to keep in mind. Tua Tagovailoa has been hurt every year he's been in football. And now he's hurt again. And he'll probably be hurt again. He just gets hurt. Now, I hope he can play Thursday night, but he's got a back issue that was serious enough for him to collapse in the game. As someone who had back surgery and it collapsed several times walking when it gave out, I can understand what he went through. But he's a big surprise, but there's nobody in the NFL is a bigger surprise than the Jacksonville Jaguars. In their last 2 games, they have outscored their opponents 30-40, 52. Okay, hang on. I went to Baylor. Points 38, 48, 58, 96, 62-10.
John, is that
how they lost to the Commanders? And David, you know this because the Commanders were awful.
They are.
Sunday. How the Jaguars lost that first game is beyond me. I'm sorry, Paul. Go ahead.
Is that all Doug Peterson, like just grabbing that organization and shaking off the dust, or what's going on there?
Well, first of all, they got a lot of talent. They picked first in the last 2 drafts. They perennially pick high. The last time they didn't was 2017 when they reached the AFC Championship game. Then they lost 8 in a row to the Texans, of all teams. And players want out of there because they won't pay them the big contracts. So every year there is a team or 2 that jumps out and people are ready to anoint him as a Super Bowl team, and they fade. I don't know if that'd be Miami. Don't know if it'll be Jacksonville or one of the others. But what's going on right now with Doug Peterson? He's going back to Philadelphia. Obviously, if the Jaguars were to beat the Eagles, the unbeaten Eagles, my God, they might have to take off some of those places in the stadium that they covered up so they wouldn't count toward a sellout, because people are going to be fired up there, as they should be after all the misery they have had to withstand since 2017.
What are your thoughts on the way Jalen Hurts is playing?
He's playing great. And I'll tell you something I'm writing about my column on GallerySports.com, which does not have a paywall. This is going to be for Thursday. Tua Tagovailoa and Jalen Hurts are the quarterbacks of the only unbeaten teams. This time last year, neither one of them's team wanted them. They were both trying to trade for Deshaun Watson.
Yep. Crazy what happens.
That's exactly right. And it looks like Devontae Smith is all of a sudden like kind of clicked in for them.
Well, it helps when the quarterback improves for a third year in a row. If you go back to Hurts and you watch how he improved, and then his career took off when he went to OU, and then and he's gotten better each season. Obviously, early last season, his second, the Eagles didn't know what they had. Watson was out there. They checked him out. Watson used the no-trade clause, said thanks, no thanks, and that was over. And then, of course, he thought he was going to Miami, and it didn't faze Hurts. He went through that with Tagovailoa at Alabama, replacing him, and then he goes and makes the best of it at Oklahoma, and he doesn't care that they pursued Deshaun Watson. He probably thought to himself, well, I'll show them, and he has, and there's not a fan of the Dolphins and the Eagles right now who are sad that they didn't make that trade.
John McLean, Hall of Fame columnist with us, 365 Sports.
John, Jalen Petrie, a huge bright spot for the Texans, but are there any other bright spots right now?
Well, they got a few players playing well. Their left tackle, Laramie Tunsil's playing great. Their left guard from A&M, Kenyon Green, is a monster in the running game. Their rookie running back, Damian Pierce, is running well. If their offensive coordinator, Pep Hamilton, would get over his fascination with Rex Burkhead, who can't run, and play Pierce more. But Petrie, I tweeted Brian Baldinger on NFL Network. He did a study of Petrie's big plays and just praised the heck out of him today. There's a rookie website, praised the heck out of him. 2 interceptions, a sack, 2 tackles for loss. He has been a beast. And people here, I tell them when I'm doing my shows, hey, I've been telling you all that since he got drafted, because he's doing the things now that he did the last 2 seasons at Baylor. And you guys know how great he was. He should be a candidate for NFL Defensive Player of the Year, but I think the Texans are going to be so bad nobody will know it.
John, is Cooper Rush playing himself into getting some phone calls about availability when Dak returns?
I think Cooper Rush is a really good backup quarterback because he's smart. He's making good decisions. He's not making stupid decisions. Dak Prescott is clearly more talented than him. But what happens when Dak comes back? And remember, that offense wasn't doing squat when he got hurt. What if he comes back and struggles a couple of games? I don't think that'll happen. He's too good. You know, the running game's good. Bringing in Peters, he's like 60 years old, putting him at guard and moving Smith, that was a good move. And when you can run the ball like they can with a 2-headed monster and have that kind of defense led by Micah Parsons, you're capable of beating anybody. So unless Prescott comes back, makes bonehead plays like he did in the playoffs, the Cowboys are going to be right there battling the Eagles for the division title.
John, how much does it help that Cooper Rush played a ton in the preseason? So way more than Dak Prescott. So he's maybe a little able to hit the ground running early in the season more than a lot of guys.
Paul, if you look around, you see a lot of teams kept their quarterbacks out. Some of them are struggling early. And the Texans played Davis Mills every game, and he's worse than he was at the end of last year when he was really good over the last 5 games. He didn't come close to duplicating that. But you're right, that could have something to do with it in their effort to keep guys from getting hurt, and they get hurt anyway. they could cause setbacks. But I tell you what, Rush is a great story, a great story for the Cowboys, and hopefully he can keep it up. And Jerry, I think what Jerry Jones meant last week when he said he hoped to have a quarterback controversies, he hoped Cooper Rush played so well that they wouldn't actually have a controversy, but it would. That's what he meant. He just hoped Rush played well, and right now, I can't imagine him doing a better job.
Well, and I wonder when Jerry says something like that, which is Jerry, and he's also marketing, and yes, he would also love the attention of any possible whatever you would want to call it if they keep winning with Cooper Rush. Of course you would. He's the owner. He wants his team to win. Do you think he ever sends a message to whoever he's about to say something or not something about and tells them that hey, by the way, someone said, hey, Jerry's saying this, he doesn't mean it so much about you?
He could do that. I'm guessing at his age, doing those shows, that he probably just says whatever he pops into his head, and you have to take it as gospel. There's nobody that's going to say, hey, Jerry, that was stupid. You shouldn't have said it. Maybe Stephen Jones tells him in a nicer way so he doesn't get grounded. But I think people, when he says something like that, and he's constantly talking about Dak, and somebody read into it, well, when Dak was the starter, he called him Dak. Now he's calling him Prescott. That means he's not as high on him, which was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. Bottom line is, Cowboys got a great quarterback situation, and a lot of teams are very envious.
If Cooper Rush was the backup for the Seattle Seahawks and doing the same thing, would it be much of a story?
Oh, of course not. It's not America's team.
No.
Of course not. But if Cooper Rush was doing the same thing, I mean, they got him over Geno Smith, and they'd be a better team because he's playing better than Smith. But as you guys know, anything involving the Cowboys is because they're the most popular team and the most hated team, and Jerry Jones loves it. And I'm sure McCarthy doesn't, but that's just life when you're playing for America's team. So, no, it would not be nearly as big a deal with any other team.
I think McCarthy's done a good job the last 2 weeks. He won't get credit for it.
No, because Cowboy fans aren't going to be happy until there's a trophy held up. John, your thoughts on Matt Rhule in Carolina right now? I know they got to win, but that offense just looks really, really listless, and they've got one of the best offensive talents in the game in Chris McCaffrey, not to mention DJ Moore at wide receiver. They're just not doing anything. Ben McAdoo's the OC there now. How much trouble is Matt Rhule really in?
The owner came out, he leaked it to a couple of writers that he's going to be very patient with Rhule, and they won. They're 1-2. Remember last year they started 3-0. I can't remember what they did in the next game, but then they went down the toilet. And if Mayfield plays better, they'll have a chance to win some more games. But the key is McCaffrey, who had almost 140 yards rushing in that game, has to stay healthy. He hadn't been able to do that the last 2 years. And I know this, if there are college programs, like if I'm Nebraska, I want to find Matt Rhule's agent and call him and say, hey, by the way, if something happens to him, we're interested. I would think any college program wanting to rebuild especially would be all over Matt Rhule, and they could get him really cheap because he'd be paid his contract with Carolina. And I think it was for $56 million, and he'd get all that money. I hope it doesn't come to that. I'd like to see him do well, but his team is struggling right now. But that's the way people thought it would be.
It was a nice win for them. There's not many of them available. One of the things I've heard about what Matt, though, Rhule would want if he gets back in the college game is he wants to be near where you don't have to go. Like, for example, one of the things about Lincoln, it's isolated. Well, so is Wisconsin and other places as well. But he would rather be where it's an area where it's pretty fertile with recruiting. And
like Waco, Texas?
Like Waco, because of obviously all the talent in the state of Texas. Pennsylvania's got good football, not known as much for some of the schools. But that may be something why Lincoln would not make sense for him.
And maybe it wouldn't. There's going to be so many other jobs like Arizona State. Arizona State doesn't have one commitment of the top 22 prospects in that state. I think I read when I read about Herm Edwards getting fired. And, of course, you need to keep the guys close to home. And I would imagine Matt's going to go where he would get the most control. And Nebraska used to put out a lot of good players, and they had a program in which every county gave a scholarship to a player. Well, they get the players in state on that scholarship and then give their football scholarships to players from around the country that came out of state to play for Tom Osborne. Osborne didn't have any problem. I think if he had the right coach in there and he knew what he was doing and he could recruit, he could make that program big. But, you know, they have been worth the darn since they left the Big 12 and the Big 8.
Yeah, no, since they fired Frank Solich, Pelini was good, but just a little bit nuts. John, thanks for your time. Is Red Wine 65. John, thanks for your time, buddy.
Second Bears against those Oklahoma State Cowboys. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Red Wine 65. Think about Nebraska. You hear about they're in the middle of the cornfield. That's the way they've always been. They were a destination location because of the program, because of the facilities, because they were playing for national titles or going to. And that's not the case now. It hasn't been for a long, long time. You get if Tom Osborne came back and coached there, you know, even with some of the different rules, they would probably win again.
Something we're not factoring in, though, at all is NIL. Doesn't matter where you are.
Yeah.
It's pay for players.
Yeah.
And I think Nebraska's probably at the point where they're ready to pony up some money to get players. Like, you know, they already did that with O'Shawn Mathis. And, you know, we'll see how that goes. But I guarantee anybody who goes there is getting some fat NIL guarantee before they do anything recruiting-wise.
Absolutely. This is 365 Sports.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Collision Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season. And BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Collision Ford.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it?
And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T is board-certified physician consultations, will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 555.
Top 5 teams that should be ranked, in my opinion. And look, there are other teams you can take in and out of this, but I feel these teams have done enough with their resume to be ranked. Number 5, Cincinnati, only losses to Arkansas on the road. And I think if they get a win this week, they will be. But I think they've proven that they're good enough to be ranked, and they'll probably roll through and start making some waves in the American here soon. But I do think Cincinnati should be ranked, although they were 5th. So they're the ones I feel the least bad about.
Okay, my only thing with this is, like, it would almost need to be a full-blown segment if we were doing it properly, because who are they replacing? Because then that's the question is, if you want to put them in, that's fine, and I'm with you. But who are you taking out that you're putting them in there? You know what I'm saying? But
well, we have rules on that. Give us the top 5 and somebody would call in.
I'll take out Pitt right now.
All right.
Okay.
I'll take out Pitt right
okay.
now.
All right.
I'll take out Pitt.
I think you take out that team from Tallahassee. Who the hell are they?
They're a bunch of bums, Free Shoes University.
And look, maybe so. Maybe they are. Of the 4-0 teams, they have
I do think about Pitt, though. I've been very underwhelmed with Keaton Slovis overall. But, that's my only caveat is, like, because it's easy to say, like, well, 10 teams should be ranked, and then, but, like, there's not a top 35. But,
So I could amend this to say, like, top 5 teams that should be in if you can only take out one, like, if not this one, then this one, and so on.
No, you're going to have to do that the rest of
the
way.
I'm not expecting you to do that. I'm just saying if we were to really sit down and do this and say who deserves it, like, you'd have to take somebody out.
It's like when somebody says, like, who's the greatest this and that. Well, I think it's when you got, like, 40 people.
Right. I'll amend this to make it work.
Okay.
I think I've got an idea.
You're so good at this.
Okay, number 4. This is improv. Number 4, if I'm going to take somebody out, like say I'm going to take Pitt out and I can't have Cincinnati, I'm putting Oregon State in.
Okay.
They just lost.
Still. Texas lost.
A&M lost. Yeah, no, you're right. Texas, okay.
Yeah. And look, I would take A&M completely out of this poll had they not just beaten 2 ranked teams when they were playing them, because I still don't think they should be really in it based on what they've done so far. But Oregon State, I think, deserves to be in because they just lost to USC and had that game almost won.
Yeah, I would agree with you, but I can't get over the 4 interceptions. I mean, I can't get behind top 25 momentum when your quarterback's throwing 4 picks in a game you lose by a field goal. That's brutal, man. But yeah, the Beavers have been a great story so far this year, and that would have been one heck of a win for them against the Trojans, and we'd be talking about them everybody would be talking about them far heavier had they won that game. But the problem is nobody barely got to see it or knew where to find it. And by the time they did, they realized, like, I got to sign up for a new cable deal to get Pac-12 network, and that was just a mess.
There's certainly, like, Brett McMurphy gained a bunch of Twitter followers because he was given play-by-play updates on Twitter.
I have DirecTV, which will never have the Pac-12 network.
Hey, let me ask you this. Oregon State lost, right?
Yeah.
And they undefeated before that?
Yeah.
They lost to who? The number 6 team in the country?
Yeah.
How come they didn't move into the top 25?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. All right.
Look, I would even sacrifice Florida State for that right now.
All right.
No. Number 3, Wazoo. Also just lost, but based on the Texas rules, you could put Washington State in this thing as well.
Yeah, boy, that's another team that seemed like they had on the verge of, like, big-time win.
Yeah, no, they're a bit too Cam Ward driven for me. Yeah. He's a good player, fun story from Incarnate Word and all of that, but But yeah, he's doing a heck of a lot for them. I do take issue with the whole Texas Rhule thing. I don't think you should lose to anybody and be bumped up in the top 25. So I'm not on board with these, but I understand your angle here. So I get it. But yeah, I wouldn't put Wazoo in the top 25.
All right, number 2, I'm going to make this easier for you guys. Syracuse, undefeated.
I'm with this one.
Yeah.
Undefeated, playing well. Beat the tar out of Louisville. Blew the doors off them. And Louisville's a team that is very middle of the pack. I get that. But if you look at the rest of the Louisville games, they're fighting and scratching tooth and nail with most everybody else. But Syracuse.
They're in the coaches poll.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's true. They are number 25 in the coaches poll. I was looking at the AP. But
that's okay.
Yeah,
Two different polls, media and coaches and SIDs.
Yeah, I don't trust the media. I'm going to start about
God.
Well, it was the media that voted Texas into the top 25 after their loss to Alabama. So, yeah, but no, they're off to a good start. Dino Babers looked like he was on a pretty hot seat there going in, but they've been able to to really surprise a lot of people. And I don't think many people were expecting them to be kind of a talking point this year, but here they are. So good for the Orangemen.
Yeah, I don't trust the media and their pro thing I don't like agenda.
Say it, what?
Their pro thing I don't like agenda.
Oh,
the media is pro things I don't like, so I don't like them.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
that's why people are mad.
There are some agendas, no question.
Yeah. But I don't know what those things are I don't like, but I know I don't like them, and I know that they do and I don't.
Syracuse, they have Wagner.
So they're going to be 5-0.
NC State in 2 weeks. 3 weeks, because there's an off week. They have an off week after that. Okay?
Yeah.
Well, that'll be fun.
Yeah, they'll be
Clemson.
interesting.
We're about to find out about them.
Yeah. And number 1.
The ACC has a bunch of teams ranked.
Yeah. The ACC is a very good average league.
Yeah.
They're good at being average. That's the thing that people don't, really realize about them, because if you're average, you just kind of blend in. They have
22, 23, 24, 10, 5.
Yeah. What they really need is, 12, 10, 5, 3 to really be noticed. So.
And here we are.
Number 1, Kansas. Most of the teams that are 4-0 don't have the resume that Kansas does right now of beating 3 Power 5 teams in a row, 2 of those on the road. To me, that's a team you can rank.
If you took their name out of the equation and you put them in another conference or two and had their resume, would they be ranked?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And if they were in a certain conference, they would be top 10 right now. And I don't have any problems arguing that with anybody. I saw a dumb response from Tennessee fans on TV ratings from this past weekend. Tennessee and Florida had the big 4 million or whatever it was rating, and good for them. That's all well and good. But I saw more than a handful of Vols fans laughing about or joking on those who thought that Kansas got a little bit, screwed over as far as the weekend shows this past weekend. It's like, when are you going to go to Kansas again? Because the odds of them continuing to win are pretty slim. I'm betting them to lose this weekend, as a matter of fact. But while it's feel good, why not go visit Kansas? And their whole point was see, that game didn't even register on the national ratings, whereas they went to Tennessee because all the fans, and I get why, it's all the eyeballs, but that's not the argument. The argument wasn't who's going to get the most viewers. Yeah, if we do it that way, then it's going to be Tennessee versus pretty much anybody, even if they're not even winning games. But that wasn't the point.
They were App State 7 days before that. Did that game get a lot of eyeballs?
No, but look who we're dealing with there. But and I have nothing against Vol Guy, but I just felt like that was a really weak argument of just, we have more. It's not better. It's not, you got a real point to it other than just want to relive the 90s. But, but I just think there's something unique to the Kansas angle, and both networks decided to not, go that direction, and that's fine. They got the big audience and all of that, but that wasn't the argument for why Kansas deserved to have one of those spots.
About them having game day, if they would have, or what they're ranked, is you never know when they might get popped. And then they have to overcome being Kansas in football and a loss if that happens. And give them what they earn at that moment, not so much who you think is or should be ranked based on who they are as a logo. We our philosophy on that. Doesn't mean we're always right, but if you go by the number 1 ranked team in the country based on ratings, then Texas would be number 2 and Alabama would be number 1.
The Cowboys would have won 75 Super Bowls.
75 in a row. Yeah, in a row. All right, thank you again, Jacob Wilson, Anne-Marie and Levi, who were here earlier. I don't know if I saw Anne-Marie. I don't even know if I saw either one of them, but they're always around. Jack McKenzie, Garrett Ross, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. For Paul, Catalina, and Craig Smoak, thank you. Hey, Derwake, who's on the chat room. We saw your note about your 3-year-old. We're very much praying for them, for him and her. We don't know if there's a daughter or a son who you said was diagnosed with leukemia. You're part of our family, man. We love you. This is 365 Sports, and good night.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.